Why, thank you. Are you not worried that you might be killed here?
Since I have arrived here today as an envoy of peace, why should any harm befall me?
It's nice to finally meet you. My name is Souma Kazuya.
Julius, Crown Prince of Amadonia.
State what your business is.
I want Van returned to me, at once. So stop wasting my time and step down.
What did I say?
The Principality of Amadonia is a signatory of the Mankind Declaration. It clearly states that any changes to the borders...
Due to military action will not be recognized. And you believe we violated that article?
Of course, and in accordance with the Declaration, I demand you relinquish control of Van and its surrounding territories.
You've no right to demand anything! Or did you forget you were the ones that invaded the Kingdom of Elfrieden? Only after you were defeated did the treaty matter to you. And now you're seeking your lost lands using the Empire's prestige.
The invasion of your country was an arbitrary decision made by my late father Gaius.
A campaign that you took part in and share the blame for. On that note, before we discuss the return of land, you should apologize for invading our territory.
To you?
The king's correct in this instance. Our position is to request that your territory be given back to you.
The decision to go to war was a capricious one made by my father. I'm to blame for being unable to stop him. And yes, I will apologize for that. However, presently your country is violating our borders. I demand you give back our land.
Yes, we all know what you think, Julius. But what does the Empire say?
We can't afford to dismiss the requests of our signatory nations.
So in other words, you're demanding the following. The Kingdom of Elfrieden must return all occupied territories, including Van?
That is correct.
My answer is no.
You won't? Are you out of your mind? You would defy the Declaration?
I don't plan on defying anything.
Then as the ruler of this country and its protector, it is my duty to liberate my people from under your occupation.
To liberate them, huh? By that token, surely you can express what the residents of Van desire.
Meaning?
On your way here, I trust you were able to observe how the streets of Van have drastically altered.
I was born and raised in this city. I know it far better than you ever will.
Is that so? Then tell me what you think of the new palette it's taken on.
Palette? I saw a number of houses painted in horrendous colors.
You may think so, but why would people who are oppressed under our occupation, according to you, feel free to make their roofs and walls more colorful, do you think?
Huh? Well,
When I first arrived in Van, all I could see was gray. Not a single shred of individuality. Now there's freedom of expression. People can paint their homes, choosing whatever color they might prefer. Comparing how it looked before with the Van that's now under my control, which do you think is the more liberated city?
How dare you!
Stand down, Julius.
Remove your hand from your sword too, Aisha.
Right. King Souma, I would ask that you refrain from trying to rile Julius.
I was only stating the facts. If one wishes to lead, they must govern the realm effectively while also saving its people. You taxed Van's residents to death, oppressing them while bolstering your military might.
And whose fault is that? If the Elfrieden royal family hadn't stolen my grandfather's land from him?
That's you and your family's favorite excuse, isn't it? But the fact of the matter is, your country is the one that's been continuously doing harm to ours. Hakuya?
Yes, sire.
This is...
a list of all the noblemen from Elfrieden who were incited to insurrection by the Principality of Amadonia. They were the ones who instigated a revolt, encouraged fraud, and then motivated these nobles to be uncooperative toward the royal family.
incredible.
It's shocking, but the fact is, they're only pretending to abide by the Declaration, while secretly their country interferes with foreign affairs, and yet even after all this, they stand before us now speaking about vengeance.
It's the Kingdom of Elfrieden's fault your country is so poor. Our fault your people are starving. In whatever direction you look, there's endless suffering. Meanwhile, you spend your hard-earned tax money on the military instead of people and blame us.
What are you saying?
It's awfully convenient. As long as you beat the drum of revenge, you can conceal your own mismanagement of the city and direct the anger of the people unfairly towards our country.
Damn you!
What did I just say? And I asked you to stop aggravating him.
I'm sorry, but my intention was to make it clear Elfrieden is also fed up with the Principality of Amadonia's poor conduct. I would like to make you a proposal. Could I ask you to kindly leave us the room, please, Julius?
You have some nerve! You want me to sit out of discussions about the return of my own homeland?
You still don't understand. There wasn't any point for you to even show up to these negotiations.
You arrogant!
It's the Empire that's seeking the return of land against the backdrop of military force. You're powerless. Since that's the case, discussion will take place between Jean and myself.
The Gaul! It's my territory and you will deal with me!
Stand down, Julius, and allow me to handle the negotiations. The Empire does have other business. With you here, this discussion has reached total standstill. From here on out, I will do the talking.
All due respect, isn't that a bit of a one-sided argument?
Then the Empire will withdraw. Feel free to bargain as you like afterward.
I trust that you'll do your best.
Please forgive him. He's difficult today.
Only today or all of the time?
The two of them are joking, but the mood's grown more tense.
Let us start over, King Souma. As you know, I am General Jean Euphoria of the Grand Chaos Empire. In my sister's stead, I am here representing Maria Euphoria.
I welcome you to Van, Jean. I am acting King of Elfrieden, Souma Kazuya.
Princess Licia, I am relieved to find you are well.
I am equally pleased to see that you're in good health, Jean.
Hold on. You two know each other?
That's right. We met once while we were children. That was long before the Demon Lord's domain appeared.
Yes, it was. During a conference with the former King Albert, if I remember right. At an age where games were more interesting than politics. I would like us to have a candid discussion.
As would I. But before we begin, Licia, would you go and fetch Serena for me?
Right away.
So, a minute ago, you mentioned you and Licia used to play games together back when you were children. I guess royal families would interact with each other often.
It depends on the nation. When the foreign minister visited Elfrieden, I forced him to take me along to meet the princess.
Insistent of you.
It seems Licia has grown into an even stronger princess than before.
If you say so.
Fair warning, even back then I couldn't land a single hit on her.
So when you said how you used to play games together, it was more like you two were practicing combat. A couple of tomboys, huh? Or are you only bringing it up to try and keep me in check?
Maybe.
Sire, I have come here as you have requested. Your wish?
Here's the deal. The Amadonian Prince Julius is in the VIP suite. Please prepare a banquet and see that he's entertained.
I'd be more than happy to. But to be clear, when you say keep him entertained, you want me to take charge of him, correct?
A little formal, but yeah. That is exactly what I mean.
In that case, I would like permission to open the bottle of vintage liqueur in the castle's wine cellar, Your Majesty.
As long as we provide our guests with the best level of hospitality.
Highness, I will personally make sure Julius's chalice never runs empty. I guarantee he will be more than pleased with my hospitality, however much he can remember.
What's wrong? Am I missing something? Tell me.
Soma, tequila is a hard liquor renowned for its strength.
It has such a pleasant flavor, people end up drinking too much of it, and for someone not accustomed to the effects, they will be indisposed for some time.
So basically you're saying if she serves him a drink...
I guarantee you that the banquet will be over in less than 10 minutes.
That's not very hospitable.
Just this once, I actually feel a bit sorry for Julius.
This really is quite the amusing country.
I suggest we relocate and start negotiating. Does that sound agreeable, Jean Euphoria, General of the Grand Chaos Empire's forces?
Very much so. Provisional King Souma Kazuya of Elfrieden. I'll let you lead the way.
Nearly 10 years ago, the Demon Lord's domain appeared, and mankind lost their lands as a result. In response to the turmoil, the Grand Chaos Empire put forth the Declaration of Mankind's Common Front against the Demon Race. Nations that signed on to the Declaration ratified the following 3 articles. The first states any changes in borders among mankind's territory due to military action will not be recognized. The Principality of Amadonia signed the treaty, while the Kingdom of Elfrieden did not. Therefore, when the former lost the capital of Van to the latter, it was possible for Amadonia under Article 1 to appeal to the Empire, Using the power of the Declaration, they sought the return of the lost territory.
If there are no more delays, our two nations can get down to business and resume with our talks.
Right.
Thank you for the meal. It was quite delicious.
Please forgive us. Typically, we would give you a banquet.
I shall repay you for the food and hosting me. Allow me to provide a morsel of information. Monster tastes good.
Huh?
What I mean by that is their meat can be eaten.
You're not joking. So then these monsters, they're from the Demon Lord's domain?
Of course, they taste surprisingly normal.
You've tried them yourself, Sean? She is cute, but also a little bit crazy. I'm impressed, but was there any chance it was actually kobold meat?
It was definitely a monster. I would never even dream of devouring demons that resemble humans.
To be honest, I can't tell the difference between demons and monsters.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting this whole world is brand new to you. Do you know about the fate of our punitive force?
Yeah. King Albert told me about it.
I don't know how much he mentioned, but it was 10 years ago. A large number of soldiers were decimated by the demons. This was when my sister was 9 and I was 7. The punitive force was under the command of the former emperor, who you've probably worked out was my father. Later, I heard stories, how horrific the attack by the monsters was. Flames spewing from teeth-lined jaws, how cities were turned to ash and people were killed and devoured, men, women, and children. The monsters were running rampant on pure instinct, though, so some people were able to escape their destruction.
Almost like wild animals.
Meanwhile, the demons demonstrated well-organized behavior, defeating our punitive force with overwhelming strength. Reports afterwards vary. Some of the troops said they were not pursued by the enemy. Others claimed the opposite, and that pillaging and butchering took place.
Kind of what you'd expect if you were fighting other people. Makes you wonder how the two differ. Could it be possible that demons may have evolved from monsters?
We only know they gained their intelligence from eating people's brains. At least, that's what the religious folks made a big fuss about, but their narrative was full of holes. Skipping ahead, after we entrenched our battle lines, the monsters kept up their attack, while we held. But we have the situation under control. You can take it from me. But we kind of strayed from the topic. So back to eating monsters. The meat I consumed, it belonged to a giant flying serpent.
I'm not familiar with that creature.
It's a large snake, with 4 bird-like wings growing out of its back.
As I recall, Central and South Americans worship Quetzalcoatl, a god similar in appearance. I don't know what possessed you to eat something like that, though.
As for the taste, it was somewhere between a normal snake and bird.
It tasted like a regular snake? As in she's eaten them before? For a princess, you've developed a taste for, shall we say, unusual cuisine.
I'm also a general commanding troops. If the occasion demands it, we'll eat whatever we can find.
I suppose I can see your reasoning. Still, I'm having a hard time imagining how you found out in the first place.
From a scout party, they discovered the remains of monsters that had been cooked.
So you're saying...
We believe the demons have been consuming them. Naturally, when we captured the same species, we had to verify if they were edible or not. Upon trying it myself, I found it tasted light and surprisingly refreshing.
I mean, obviously this raises more interesting points besides the taste.
And that would be what?
Well, for starters, the fact that demons were eating monsters is way more shocking. The implication is demons don't regard monsters as equals. There's a hierarchy. Tell me something, John.
What is it?
Just what if demons and monsters are the same as what we call people and animals?
Why would you ever think that?
Hey, no notes for this part.
Understood. Must be disturbing if you don't want it on the public record. I can't wait to hear the bombshell you're dropping.
Forgive me. In some situations, I realize these could be seen as discriminatory remarks, so...
In regards to what? If you're talking about demons and monsters, I'm intrigued.
The truth is, animals, monsters, I can't quite see any difference. And yes, I imagine that sounds crazy to everyone here. On that note, the races such as beastmen and dragon newts, they seem similar to demons.
That's mad.
The beings that occupy this world are nothing like the ones where I come from, so I don't understand how they're different.
Well, for starters, demons!
Are you comparing Tomoe to their kind?
Majesty, saying that's too far is an understatement. Like I said, this could most likely end up being interpreted as discriminatory.
Let me ask you this. Can you tell me the difference between mystic wolves, foxes, and kobolds, Sean?
Of course I can. Kobolds' faces are more dog-like.
Sure, but there are races of beastmen with animal-like faces, aren't there?
I suppose, but now that you mention it...
Wait, I know. The kobolds have bodies that are almost completely covered in fur.
If that's the measure, their fur length, then what about demons we know about without any hair?
After thinking about all of this, I realize now I'm differentiating between people and demons by sense alone.
Same for me. But if I wasn't, I can't really think of anything that sets them apart.
How did we miss the similarities for so long?
It's probably a shared awareness unique to this world. There is a sensate understanding of the difference between mankind and demon.
I'm glad we won't be mentioning this outside of the room. If any bureaucrats had been here, then I would have had to slay them.
Kill them? You wouldn't really go that far, right?
Keep telling yourself that.
If word of this discussion got out, I would expect the supercontinent to erupt in riots. Isn't that so, Hakuya?
Most definitely. The species have been deemed categorically different, but if that stance were to suddenly change, the human supremacist countries like Amadonia would seize on the news, targeting all the multiracial peoples like the High Elves. It would give them the ammunition they need to launch such attacks.
Additionally, if beastmen and dragon newts were compared to demons, then they would be ostracized, and various governments would find ways to oppress them.
All throughout the continent, it would spark interracial strife and social upheaval.
Sorry. I hadn't thought it through that far yet.
Don't worry. Better to bring it up now rather than having it thrust upon us.
I'm relieved to hear you say that. I'll admit, I don't know if I have a solution.
It's possible to think of demons as an ethnic minority. If so, the Mankind Declaration would make an appeal against persecuting them. But that agreement, though, is strictly between governments, and has no bearing on the general public's views. At most, we'd check on how much nations would want to supervise.
For that matter, there are nations like ours, ones that have not signed the Mankind Declaration. If we, a foreign power, were to force our policies on them, there could be a severe backlash and even quite possibly a war.
That's absolutely right. Not like we have all the information about monsters and demons anyway. It's dangerous drawing conclusions when there are still so many unknowns.
Very well. To be frank, it seems we should discuss this matter further. That is, if you would like.
That would be best. Well then, I think it's time we discuss the occupation of Van. As you know, as per the Mankind Declaration, we will not recognize borders altered by military force.
And you should know, we will not return their land. Amadonia was the one that started this war. If you allow for this behavior, the Empire will lose respect of both signatories and non-signatories.
You may be right, but we planned for this. And because of their actions, the Principality of Amadonia will pay reparations.
If they refuse, will you resort to force of arms?
If it's necessary. What with the number of troops I have stationed nearby, it shouldn't be difficult, defeating yours and the Principality's forces.
Most likely not. However, we don't wish to fight you. So instead, let's lay out our intentions. First, the Empires. You don't want changes to the borders, right? That's why you need Van returned, to avoid a precedent.
Most perceptive. Yes, you're correct.
In terms of my kingdom, we wish to curb Amadonia's ability for future hostile action, so they can't interfere with us again. We also want compensation for their invasion.
What you're saying is, taking Van was mostly to teach them a lesson? In short, you would relinquish control of Van only if the Principality adequately compensates by paying you reparations. Do I have that down right?
If Julius wants the city back and pays, yes, I will return it.
To me, that's a shame. Van could generate all sorts of wealth in the long run, and we would be missing out on that for a simple one-time payment.
I don't view it as a bad situation. The Empire achieves what they came here for and has the Principality's territory returned back to them. As for the other non-member nations...
It sends a clear message to them all. If you try anything similar, you may not lose your land, but you will pay for it.
You catch on quickly, Sean. No surprise. This ought to earn some good faith with non-member nations, too.
Julius is going to be completely against it.
He created this situation. One more thing. Please have the payments made in Imperial coinage.
You're dragging my country into this?
The Empire bears some responsibility for not quelling Amadonia's rage outright.
I suppose there's no denying that. Tell me, Souma, why hasn't Elfrieden signed on to the Mankind Declaration yet? I hate to say this in front of Princess Lycia, but in Albert's case, the reason he didn't join our unified force, that is, it's not that he refused to.
My father couldn't make up his mind whether to sign it or not. He's a little indecisive.
You haven't signed since taking the throne. I imagine you have a more concrete reason.
I can't afford to give her my answer just yet. Then again, if I lie, it'll adversely affect our new relation with the Empire. I hope you'll trust me when I say we want our nation to march alongside yours despite not being a signatory on the treaty. As long as Empress Maria continues striving to unite all of mankind in response to the Demon Lord's domain, we will be your allies. The kingdom is not the enemy of the Empire.
Even though you insist we can trust you, you still won't sign the declaration.
Our country couldn't sign if we wanted to. What we would like is to enter into a bilateral alliance with the Empire. One that would be kept secret.
Secret, you say? Go on.
We finally got our domestic affairs in order. And now we're reforming our military. We're creating a new system. One that will act as a single unified force. Speaking of, is it true? The Empire's sending a detachment to reinforce the Union of Eastern Nations?
Yes. They're a collection of small to mid-sized countries, but most are signatories of the Mankind Declaration. Per the treaty, it's only right we send them our troops.
That's right. So why not allow our country to take on the exact same role?
You can't be serious.
Say the demons and monsters move south. They'll surely avoid the Star Dragon mountain range, pushing either east or west. If they head west, the Empire has them. East, my kingdom will deal with their numbers instead.
Well, that would require some new protocols.
Yes, I know. Should the Empire head of the Mankind Declaration request reinforcements from the Union of Eastern Nations, they will be met, as will any requests made to our kingdom. That's the form I'd like this to take.
If it's discovered that our two nations are in alliance, it will make some countries trepidatious. Amadonia, yes, as well as Zem, not to mention the Republic of Turgis. It is for that reason we would like this agreement of ours to be kept strictly confidential.
A secret alliance only we know about. For my part, I see no reason why I shouldn't accept your proposal. But just how is this going to benefit you in the long run?
The way I see it, we are earning the trust of the Empire.
I'm not sure I would call that much of a benefit.
Maybe, but when the fate of mankind hangs in the balance, we can't think in terms of profits and losses. Plus, if we don't become involved, other nations will give us the cold shoulder.
That makes sense. But there's too much distance between us. How are the Empire and Kingdom supposed to communicate quickly?
I have a workaround to eliminate that problem. Hakuya, show her.
Yes, sire.
I'd like you to give this to Maria.
It's a simple receiver.
If the Empire would kindly give us one in return, we can reach each other anytime.
That way you and my sister could be able to easily converse person to person. I cannot help but shudder at your sheer inventiveness, Souma.
You're being too kind. Where I'm from, these systems are commonplace.
We must seem antiquated to someone like you. You just keep amazing me. Listen, Souma, would you permit me to make a rash proposal?
Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. All right, then. Princess Lycia?
What is it?
How would you feel about giving Albert the throne back? So that way, you could give Souma his own country. Or he could join the Empire and become our Prime Minister. But that's just the start. Ultimately, he would marry my sister and become the new Emperor.
Do you even understand exactly how inappropriate of a request that is? What kind of negotiation is
sort of empire he and my sister would end up creating.
It's simply out of the question. You can't take Soma from me. I mean, you can't take Soma away from our kingdom.
Licia, easy. I swear I'm not going anywhere. Okay?
Apologies for shouting.
I know your hand's still on your sword. Aisha, be good.
Majesty, why are you treating me so unfairly?
A generous offer, but I can't accept your proposal. For the kingdom's sake. As well as Licia's and the others.
I understand. It was a wild idea, but I appreciate you humoring me. Getting back to our previous discussion. Regarding the secret alliance, it's a serious decision I cannot make on my own.
That's what the simple receiver's for.
It goes beyond that. What would you say to sending each other several diplomatic officers?
I see what you mean. That would make working together much easier. Then we'll proceed. As for these ambassadors, let's assign them titles. Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary. I also recommend we build embassies in both capitals to station them.
This all sounds brilliant. I'll look into it immediately.
It's getting awfully late. How about we call it a day?
Yes, I concur. We've been talking longer than I thought. The sun's already rising.
I feel like we discussed a few subjects that weren't necessarily of importance.
I'm just glad these negotiations led me to finding someone I can depend on. There is something I think you should know, my new good friend from the East.
And what might that be, new friend from the West?
Within the demon's domain, there's a being who is lord over the realm. While we haven't cracked the demon's language, there is one word we have noticed that they are often repeating. My country's researchers have surmised that they might actually be saying a name of the demon lord themselves. That word is... Devalroy.
Wait a minute. The demon lord Devalroy?
Yes.
I've got the strangest feeling. Almost like the name's familiar. Wait, what is this? Maybe deja vu? No, it's not. If only I could remember where I heard the name from.
Soma! Serena, would you be kind enough to show John to her guest room?
Really, all I need is to get some sleep in my office.
Tonight, you're going to sleep in a proper bed. I don't know what happened back there, but at least let me take care of you.
Thank you, Licia.
It's my pleasure.
This is the Kingdom of Elfrieden's decision. We will give back Van to the Principality of Amadonia and return to our country. The conditions of this return are, the Principality of Amadonia is hereby ordered to pay the Kingdom of Elfrieden war reparations for their invasion. Furthermore, this payment is separate from monies negotiated for the return of prisoners of war.
Answer me, Jean. What is the meaning of this?
You wanted your lands returned to you, and that's exactly what I did.
Is this your idea of a bad joke? You know how paying reparations will look? As if our nation's admitting defeat!
I'm afraid that's unavoidable, since that is what happened. You did lose your capital, after all.
You're wrong. We haven't been defeated yet. We just had one of our cities conquered, that's all!
In that case, the Empire withdraws from this mediation and will play no further role. By all means, go to war or take whatever action you desire. As I recall, you can reclaim Van without asking for the Empire's help. Deny it all you want. You have lost. Serving as head of the Mankind Declaration, the Empire has now considered this dispute settled. Van has been returned. Now pay.
But, General, paying them reparations will...
And you should know, my sister Empress Maria is terribly saddened by this whole affair. The Declaration cannot overlook this act of aggression, or the attempt to justify such actions through the treaty.
As I said, the battle was Gaius's call.
Even so, to ensure other member nations will not follow your example and attempt similar military action, severe punishment is required. Your nation will serve as a precedent.
I see. And what if we refuse?
Then the Empire will withdraw its support. and we will expel Amadonia from the Mankind Declaration.
Huh? But that is just utter madness! You can't expel a signatory on a whim!
As I mentioned earlier, you instigated this act of aggression, using a broad interpretation of the Mankind Declaration. If we permit that, there will be other countries who might try similar actions. And knowing my sister Maria, she will not look kindly upon those who do.
The Principality of Amadonia is surrounded on 4 sides, each by a different nation. If they lose the protections of the Mankind Declaration now, they could get preyed upon by the other 3 countries. During his reign, Gaius VIII protected the country on the northern and southern borders by flexing his military might. One could argue he was able to maintain a sense of diplomacy, albeit in his own style. The question is whether Julius possesses the same acumen.
Your mediation plan is accepted.
A wise choice, Julius. A deal's been reached.
Now that's settled, let us begin negotiating a specific amount. The Kingdom of Elfrieden requests 2 years' worth of the Principality of Amadonia's annual budget. Of course, we do not intend for you to make this payment all at once. Rather over the next 10 years. Also, these payments are to be made in imperial coinage.
2 years' worth of our annual budget? What makes you think I'd ever agree to such an exorbitant amount?
Were you listening? Did you miss where they said it's to be paid in imperial coinage? If you refuse them, it won't concern us. However, I think you should be aware. By doing so, the city of Van won't be returned to you.
More than 50% of Amadonia's annual budget goes towards the military. So if we're taking 20%...
We want to deprive them of what they used to spend on them. Will Julius be able to scale that back, though? If I may ask, Jean, what if one of the payments becomes overdue?
Then the Empire will support the Kingdom of Elfrieden's bid to annex Van.
While I believe you are a person of great integrity, Julius, it's still conceivable that someone in your court could end up delaying payment. Which is why I would like some collateral.
That's interesting. What exactly did you have in mind?
A gemstone to make future broadcasts.
Huh? We have only one in the entire country. Wait, you're planning to incite the people?
All you would have to do is change the receiver's frequencies, right? After that, you would prevent them from receiving any transmissions from Elfrieden.
Even though that is true.
Before you protest, I want to be forward and say I don't think the gemstone is enough collateral. To make up for the shortfall, I'd like to take possession of the books in the castle's library.
Ha! Why didn't you just say so? Take all the dusty relics off our hands you want.
Very well.
All right, let's put other matters before us to bed. You're holding several of our soldiers captive. I demand they be freed as part of the arrangement.
Fine by me, but for knights or for any higher ranking and nobles, you will pay a ransom. Furthermore, after a country invaded ours, we launched an investigation to uncover those who committed war crimes and compiled the list of those individuals. We cannot consent to turning over any captives whose names are on the list.
I agree to your terms.
Among the criminals listed there, we request those who remain in your country be turned over to us. As soon as that handover is completed, we will begin returning your prisoners.
Among the captured, is there a Roroa?
Roroa? Is that an acquaintance of yours?
She shares the Amadonia name, and is my unworthy sister.
You have a sibling. I heard before the fighting broke out, she fled along with other influential bureaucrats.
All right, then.
We can search for her on our end if you'd like.
Not necessary.
He's trying to prevent any dispute over his succession to the throne.
Huh. Despite being one of his few relatives left, now that Gaius is no longer around?
It's not uncommon among royalty. Even in the Kingdom of Elfrieden, there was an awful successorship struggle. At least until my mother took the throne.
I'm sure it's a reality. I only wish it wasn't. In my view, as someone without a family, I couldn't imagine not wanting to take care of my one and only sister. One last matter concerning General Margarita. We would like to have her remain in the kingdom.
You want General Margarita Wonder? If you will release 5 of the noblemen you are holding without any ransom, then we will gladly accept your offer.
I won't interfere. But from what I understand, she worked alongside the kingdom after the occupation. In my opinion, you could have driven a harder bargain. Giving her up in exchange for a mere 5 noblemen is unwise.
Very well. We accept your terms.
She served as a competent general, but why out of all my officers choose her specifically?
Someone who only judges people based on their military value wouldn't understand. So in exchange for returning Van, Elfrieden receives compensation. A very generous amount, actually. As for you, in return for paying reparations, you get your capital back. Furthermore, as acting mediator in this dispute, the Empire has demonstrated a fair approach. I am satisfied with the results for now.
There's only one satisfied party here. You've crippled our country. If you'll excuse me.
Before you go...
Now what is it?
Where I come from, a famed political thinker named Machiavelli said the following. Power acquired through difficulty you'll keep with ease. Those who acquire it without keep it with immense difficulty.
What does that mean?
When I defeated you and took Van, I purged all the nobles. Not only them, but your knights too. And any other potential political opponents. All on my own merits. So even if I were to somehow continue governing Van, I wouldn't have very many obstacles in my way. But you, that's a different matter. When you return to power, will you be able to govern without incident?
You forget this was my city to begin with.
Just one moment. This is your land, but you didn't win it back. You relied on the Empire and outside force to reclaim it. Machiavelli called it acquiring power without difficulty, but that's not all. He also said the following. One who becomes a prince without hardships must exercise great effort to remain so. Julius, I suggest directing your efforts to helping the people of...
Who asked your opinion?
I wonder what the people of Amadonia will think when he resumes control over a city he couldn't take back. He was a fool to ignore your warning, Souma. But what else is new?
We weren't here for very long, but now that we're leaving, I'm going to miss the city.
Remaining in Van would have been a waste of funds.
Not to mention a waste of time. Several issues within our kingdom remain unaddressed, Your Majesty.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
Is it just me, or do most of the citizens look downtrodden?
Huh. They're probably anxious about falling under Amadonian reign again.
Even though everything will go back to the way they remember it being?
Precisely why. They were living under oppression. That's what they came to expect daily. However, when they were under the occupation of the kingdom, they had learned that there was more to life than tyranny.
That is true. You allowed them the freedom to express their thoughts and feelings, and without repercussions.
Exactly. They're anxious whether or not they're coming under an age of dictatorship all over again. And more than likely that will be the case. Knowing Julius, will crack down on the relaxed mood they've adopted.
Now that they've finally gotten a taste of what freedom's like, they can't go back to their old lives. Almost like an addiction.
Fair point, and I understand where you're coming from, but I wish there was a better comparison.
It's true, isn't it? Still, it's not that easy to change the entire mindset of a nation.
Back in the world where I come from, we have a saying that goes tyranny is more terrible than tigers.
I don't quite understand. Could you explain it?
It means that an oppressive government is fiercer than a man-eating tiger. To the citizens of Van, yes, we might have been invading tigers. But in no way were we tyrants. And now that they know their old way of life's returning...
Strange how the more I walk by your side, the more I see how people react during harsh times.
That all you can stomach?
Not even close,
bring it on, sire.
What's gotten into you all of a sudden?
No path walked with His Majesty is ever too difficult.
You know I feel the same way, right? I promise. I'll travel any road as long as it's with you.
I get nothing but hardship, but that's normal.
You're welcome?
Sister, I have returned from Amadonia's capital city of Van.
I'm relieved to see you're home, Jean. So, how did everything go?
There was a little bit of trouble. But for the most part, things turned out the way we hoped. I'm pleased to announce the return of Van to the Principality of Amadonia is complete.
Just as planned. Thank you for your efforts. Well done. Now that is enough of this talking shop.
I beg your pardon?
Welcome home, my dearest sister.
Where's this coming from? Such inappropriate behavior for an empress.
Do you have any idea how lonely I was not being able to see my sweet sister's face for so long? You know how everyone outside of family treats me like the empress? And our other sister just stays cooped up inside her laboratory the same as always.
Don't give me that. You're not a child anymore.
So, tell me everything. Just what kind of man is this King Souma?
Well, he is unique.
Stop holding back already.
He keeps a bed in his office. Then again, you do the same, so that's nothing new.
Go on.
First of all, Souma is well aware of the Empire's intentions, and doesn't bear us any ill will regarding the hero summoning.
Thank goodness.
What's more, he's very intelligent. He says where he comes from, these things are common knowledge, but comes up with one innovation after another. Using gemstones for media broadcasts? I never would have thought of that.
That's his intention for using the gemstone?
And this is the best part, so prepare yourself. Since he's from a different world, he actually wondered aloud if the relationship between monsters and demons here was no different than animals and people.
What? Surely he wasn't being serious. Are monsters and demons the same the way that animals and people interact? I confess I've never thought about it that way.
After you hear how he sees the world, you can't help but wonder how different his view is from ours.
It seems so.
Also, he proposed a secret alliance with us.
He wants us to work together?
Indeed. During discussions, Souma promised that he'd work with the Empire as long as you aim to unite mankind. Additionally, in the event an invasion should occur, the Empire would defend an attack from the west, while the Kingdom would be responsible for defending the east. You're laughing? I do not see how any of this is humorous, Maria.
I'm sorry, sister, but how can I not?
Would you care to explain?
It wasn't that long ago we had to show Elfrieden special consideration as their kingdom was facing its decline. Then all of a sudden we're such good friends we can entrust the safety of the whole eastern half of the continent in their hands. It's such a reversal. You would think a fairy cast a spell of illusion.
I'm sure of one thing. Recent events have been moving at a dizzying pace.
Yes. Truly they have, Jean. Say, do you remember specifically what it states a hero is supposed to do for the kingdom?
It was in the report. One who will lead the revolution into a new age.
And yet nothing about ruling the world or being the one who will defeat the Demon Lord.
Yeah, good point. But it just doesn't feel right assigning him that title yet.
When you consider all the hectic changes we've seen lately, indeed it feels like a revolution is happening. This Souma is more fascinating than I thought. I can't wait to communicate with him directly.
And here I was just thinking you weren't going to come out with us tonight.
Well, of course he would make an appearance. After all, he is a fellow adventurer. I thought you said you just ran into him at the guild, you know? You sure you didn't twist his arm to get him to show?
Adventurers, one and all, welcome to Parnham Castle. As you may know, I am the fiancée of King Souma. Licia Elfrieden, it's an honor. I am here tonight in place of Souma, who was unable to attend due to his hectic schedule. He's asked me to say a few words. I want to thank every one of you very much for taking on this latest request. Because of your efforts, countless of our people's lives have been spared. On the absent king's behalf, but also the people of the kingdom, I extend our thanks. We are in your debt. And with that, a toast!
Hey, slow down there, Otter. Would you mind leaving a little tatsagi for the rest of us?
So I've been doing some thinking about what happened. Listen up. Oh, there's a real good chance the whole Flame Piroska was just made up so... Oh!
Do me a favor and don't be such a party pooper. These octopus skewers are delicious. Open and say, ah.
My mouth's already full. For crying out loud, are you drunk already, Julia?
What if I am? This is a benefit banquet for adventurers hosted by the kingdom, isn't it? Here's yours. As a member of the party, you have to celebrate with the rest of us. You better drink up, or am I gonna have to serve it to you mouth to mouth? Okay then, let's down as much as we can tonight.
Yuno's right. You're one of us now.
So pull down that mask and drink already. A mug for each one of your party members. Yeah, it's on us. Whoa, you okay, Master? Should have told us you were a lightweight. Give me a sign if you can hear me.
Pardon, coming through.
Are you Princess Licia?
Congratulations, you almost gave yourself away. I'll take over from here.
Huh? What's wrong? Is there something on my face? 'Cause I'll die of embarrassment.
No, it's nothing. A pleasure to meet you. Please, enjoy the rest of the evening.
Huh?
Could you make the room stop spinning, please?
If you didn't want to get found out, why'd you join them in the first place? You even hid inside your costume.
What other choice did I have? I need to socialize occasionally, you know.
By the way, was that Yuno back there? She's pretty cute, don't you think?
There's nothing going on between me and her, if that's what you mean.
Well, I wasn't really asking, but thanks for letting me know all the same.
This would be the first time we've met face to face. I'm Souma Kazuya, Provisional King.
Pleasure to finally meet you. I'm your Carmine, former general. I wish to congratulate you on your recent victory.
It's hard to talk this way. Raise your head. How's life in the dungeon?
Since you asked, surprisingly comfortable. Quite peaceful down here.
Peaceful, huh? That must be pretty convenient. Aren't you going to meet with Licia?
Has the princess anything to say to me?
So far, she's mentioned nothing.
I see. Then I can only repeat what I said when she first asked to come see me. Why should you, who's on the cusp of becoming queen, show concern for an enemy of the kingdom?
You don't convince me. But knowing Licia's personality, she took your words seriously. Whenever I'm around her, she won't speak about you. She's also thrown herself into her work, like she's trying to distract herself. Well, she's acting like it doesn't bother her. I know she's shaken up.
Following your ultimatum, I proceeded to say my farewells to the princess. No further words were needed.
He's refusing to see Licia to protect her. Damn, the old man's stubborn.
But since you're here, there's a question I would like to ask.
Go ahead.
What has become of my comrades who were just obeying orders and followed us into rebellion?
The soldiers have been cleared of any charges of insurrection after their exploits fighting against Amadonia.
And House Vargas?
The only ones I hold responsible and will have to answer for their crimes are Castor and Carla. The Vargas Duchy has been abolished, but the eldest son, Carl, is carrying on the family name, and he has been allowed to inherit Red Dragon City.
Answer me. What fate will befall Castor and Carla?
The two of them will be tried, by me personally at a later date.
And the nobility?
After being stripped of their family names and having their lands and possessions confiscated, they were executed. The primary offenders publicly so, and those who were implicated along with them in private.
That was wise of you.
If they'd made sure to sever all ties first as you did, many innocent relatives wouldn't have experienced a similar fate.
Per royal law, traitors and their kin up to the 3rd degree shall be executed. Nothing you could have done. Corruption, graft, collaboration with Amadonia, crimes in their home. Best to stamp out the entire rotten family tree.
Guilt by association makes the others accountable for not stopping them in the first place, right? But isn't 3 degrees a bit much?
There was no other choice. Not only humans and beastmen to consider, but races with longer lives. As a result, the scope of their association grows ever wider.
Even so, too many innocent people still end up dying! I scrambled with Hakuya till the last minute, and got the law revised just in time to make it 2 degrees. We also managed to get a stay of execution for anyone 13 and under, and have the children safely taken in by orphanages or churches.
That was very considerate of you. I do wonder, does it pain you to have to take the lives of others, Your Grace?
How could it be easy at all for me? With a single order, countless lives can be snuffed out. I'm crushed by the weight of that responsibility. I was just an ordinary guy up until half a year ago.
Licia told me about you in her letters. I hope she forgives betraying her confidence. She praises Your Grace as a king among kings. She supports you body and soul.
Licia's been instrumental in helping me. Hopefully she forgives me too, because I'm going to have to make a decision that will cause her grief. The fact is, I'm going to have to kill you. Your plan was spectacular. Gather all the corrupt nobility together in one place and then scoop up their hidden funds in one smooth action. It was the best move for the kingdom. Problem is, it's a plan that can never be public knowledge.
I never assumed that it would be disclosed. I cannot imagine the situation being embraced if the families of the fallen learned I was working with the king behind the scenes.
And since no one can ever know, you have to be treated no differently than the other corrupt noblemen.
I always knew how it would end.
You really are an idiot, do you know that? You knew all of this beforehand, and that you'd literally be taking this secret to the grave! You stubborn fool! York, is this really the only way things gotta play out? I don't buy this is how you wanted things to end. Content having your name tarnished and being locked up? Yes, in this cage, but also in a suicide pact with the nobles? How can you just sit there looking so composed? If only we had worked together, we could have purged the corrupt noblemen on our own terms. The same goes for Castor. He believed you had something in mind for the betterment of the kingdom. He was your friend, loyal to the end, and became a traitor because of it. I had plans for you to help this nation. We were going to do great things together. And no, it's not lost on me. You solved several problems in one swoop. Yes, the kingdom has become more open now, and Hakuya's and my stock have risen. But what's the point if it means losing you in the process? You should know how damaging it is in the long run to lose good people. Tell me the truth, York. Are you really content with the direction this went?
Yes, of course. For an ancient tree like me, that is destined to only grow older and continue withering until death, the new sprout is able to emerge from the roots. I only pray that sapling grows to be mighty in size.
Even if, as a result, that large tree ends up falling to the ground?
One day your majesty will experience the joy of seeing the next generation, of the strength they carry. You may not understand, but you will when you and Licia have a child.
I want you to be honest. Did you think up this elaborate plan by yourself?
What is that supposed to mean?
You have a strangely high opinion of me is all. You are leaving a lot in my hands. You trust me to take care of Licia, whom you think of as a daughter. Not to mention the future of the kingdom. Seems a bit odd no matter how you cut it. So where does this unwavering loyalty come from?
If I told you I learned of your extraordinary talent from her letters, would that leave you dissatisfied?
You know my answer. You expect me to believe that's what makes you loyal? If you were going to martyr yourself, it'd be for the Elfrieden royal family. Your entire plan, was it carried out under their orders?
I remain silent.
You will answer me. Stop playing games. What do you know exactly? You're not going to tell me no matter what, are you?
When the time finally arrives, they will reveal the truth to His Grace themselves.
A flask of poisoned wine. If there's one thing I can't bear, It's seeing a man publicly executed who sacrificed himself for his country.
Thank you.
I'll recommend the same for those who would sacrifice themselves for you.
Oh. Sacrifice themselves for me.
Several members of senior staff in the army, including your own second-in-command Beowulf, they are requesting the same sentence that you've received. Loyal to the end. Why are people so eager to die?
Highness, I have one final request. Take utmost care of the princess for me.
You don't have to ask. Lysia's my family now. I will protect her. No matter what the future holds, she'll be safe. That is one conviction I can assure you will never change.
It's a relief to hear you say that. I'll be praying for the glory of Elfrieden, for you and Lysia's happiness, even if it's from beyond the grave. I've said all. Farewell.
Jorg is no longer with us.
I see.
Much appreciated, John. I mean it. You even went out of your way to send it via Griffin Cavalry.
Using this, the Kingdom and the Empire can contact each other whenever. Naturally, I put a rush on it. Regarding the proposals, my sister gladly agreed to all of the ones we discussed. I've never seen her like this before. She was quite pleased after our talks.
You mean beyond the proposals?
My sister can share her values with someone now. More so. She's found someone who understands her.
So have we.
With all that's happening, I'd like to arrange a virtual conference between King Souma and my sister as soon as possible.
Yes, by all means.
Not to change the subject, but I can't help noticing you're surrounded by a mountain of books, Hakia.
Oh, those. They're the tomes Van gave us as collateral until all the reparations are paid. Before we return them, there are a few things we'd like to copy from their pages. Prior to our conversation, I was in the process of sorting through them.
Meaning you're going through and organizing them by yourself? You have a real passion for reading.
I just get lost thinking about everything I've learned from them.
So listen, the Imperial Library needs a good chief librarian. Would you come to our country for the job?
I have to confess that idea does sound rather appealing. And if I weren't the Prime Minister, I'd leap at the chance without hesitation.
I take it that's a no then.
As of right now, I'd like to continue helping His Majesty usher in this new era. Afterwards, when one of his heirs takes the throne, I'd like to retire and become a historian chronicling this age.
That sounds comfortable. Given the times, one could consider it to be a luxury.
You may be right. Stepping down, living a quiet life. It might be too much to ask for.
I can't believe it's already this hour. Whenever we converse, it feels like only a moment has passed, Hakia.
I feel the same way, but I never regret the time we get to spend talking.
Prime Minister Hakuya.
How is it coming?
Everything is going well. However, recently, it's as if things are moving forward a little too smoothly. Almost like there is a force at work here, an entity that is guiding events from the shadows.
As if it's someone else's will. Nothing in this one either. Maybe that really was the only book mentioning the Amadonian royal family tree. What a shame. A drawing of a bronze raccoon. Such personality. There is no shortage of talent among Amadonia. Truly.
Protest as much as you want. You simply cannot go out yet. Now stop that.
Do you have eyes in the back of your head or something? Because if you did, we would be safe leaving this room.
Look, I don't wish to use your words against you, but you said we needed to lay low until things in Van settled down.
Obviously, I'm right. It's just so boring being cooped up inside here.
If you're looking for something to do, please start thinking about Amadonia's future.
You talk about where it goes from here? I suppose that includes picking my future husband, huh?
Whoever ends up taking Princess Roroa's hand in marriage has my deepest sympathies.
May I present Glaive Magna. Your loyalty to the kingdom has been truly remarkable and unwavering, and as a reward for your service to Elfrieden, you are hereby granted Randall and the surrounding territory.
Sire, you are much too generous.
Furthermore, you are provisionally granted a portion of the authority held by Army General Yor Carmine. You are to maintain the troops until they are reorganized into the kingdom's defense force.
Yes, sire. I shall endeavor to live up to His Majesty's expectations. I am honored.
Moving along, Aisha Utgard.
Who? Not me.
Aisha Utgard, for your service, you are formally... Sire?
Aisha, you are hereby granted the rank of the King's personal guardian.
Yes, sire.
Wodan Utgard, from the God-protected forest.
Even as you were dealing with the disaster recovery, you were good enough to dispatch reinforcements.
Not at all. We Dark Elves wish to repay your kindness. It was the least we could do.
I'd still like to show appreciation for the troops you sent. If there's anything you desire, all you have to do is ask.
In that case, I have one request of your majesty. Sire, would you accept my daughter's hand in marriage?
What?
Father, please!
Oh, my word.
King Souma, would you take her to be your wife?
Well, it's quite a simple matter. Give the word and Aisha will take on the role as your second queen.
Oh, let's slow down here a sec. Are you sure her marrying me is something you want?
As her father, my feelings are complicated. However, it may be her wish.
Aisha is great. If it's a question of asking myself whether I'd want her as a wife or not, I would, but...
Soma, stop wasting time and just say yes.
Huh? You're alright with this, Licia?
It's all part of being a ruler. There will be times where you may have to marry the daughters of aristocrats or foreign princesses to strengthen bonds between different nations. When that happens, I prefer if the higher-ranked queens were people I know well and we can trust.
Yeah, okay, but still.
How is it that you can make tough decisions when the kingdom is on the line, but you're so indecisive when it comes to women? I'll handle this. Hey, Aisha!
What? Yes!
I have no intention of giving up the throne as first queen. Can you live with being second? If so, then I have no objection. In fact, I welcome you.
I agree. As long as it means being on the king's side.
Right, so, Aisha, would you like to marry me?
Of course! The answer's yes!
Presenting Juna Doma. Because of your achievements...
Your Majesty, I beg of you. May I have a moment, please? I ask you to forgive my sudden outburst. Permission to speak freely, Your Majesty.
Permission granted.
Thank you for granting me the floor. Let me start by saying yes, Juna is my granddaughter. However, Juna's father is the son-in-law of the Domas, a merchant family from Lagoon City. In short, not nobility. As such, Juna is of commoner lineage.
I'm not sure I'm following.
Listen, it's clear you're using your position to save Castor and his daughter.
But I have to, grandmother.
You have no involvement with House Vargas or their affairs, and mustn't use your achievements for people you've never met. Do not plead for the life of Castor and his daughter.
If I don't, they'll be... Your Majesty, I have a proposition.
What is it?
If at all possible, my sole desire is to join Princess Licia and Aisha, and to sing henceforth at Your Majesty's side.
Don't tell me. She's talking about asking for my hand, too?
How fortunate! By making Juna Doma your consort...
I can't, and I'm sorry, but it's just impossible. At least for the time being. You are the Gemstone Program's Prima Lorelei, immensely popular with the people. What would happen if it were announced you were engaged? violence would break out across the capital. That's why I'm asking you wait a while. The program, it still needs its prima Lorelei Juna. For now, continue being the people's songstress. I'm asking you as a personal favor.
You believe I'm the voice of the people?
After we've brought in more singers, and we have others who can carry on the tradition, then I promise I will take your hand.
I'll eagerly be awaiting that day, Your Majesty.
This Hero King has certainly built up momentum. We have no choice but to do as he demands. For now, lest we get caught up in it.
We'll operate in the shadows even as we obey his orders.
Together, we will keep a low profile so as not to get caught, while controlling this country from behind the scenes.
From what I hear, the issue of the second queen and consort has been settled.
Even though you're locked down here in the dungeon, somehow you stay caught up.
The guards have nothing better to do than share the latest gossip. What I don't know is how it makes you feel.
I'll tell you what I told Aisha. Souma's numbers of queens and consorts will only increase. Once that happens, the power dynamic will keep becoming even more complicated. These days, having kindred spirits...
I didn't ask what you thought, Licia. I wanted you to tell me how you felt about it.
Just between us, it stung a little in here.
Did you ever end up seeing Duke Carmine before?
I didn't. When I found he took his own life, I was taken aback at how at peace I felt. It's not that I don't feel sad he's gone. I mean, my heart is broken in pieces. However, I had a feeling things would turn out the way they did.
Is that right?
I guess you could call it a hunch. Something told me Duke Carmine would choose to perish alone with the darkness that had pervaded the kingdom. And because he's so stubborn, Soma would have no choice but to accept his commitment. In the end, that's what the two people I think the world have decided on. So in spite of my pain and my sadness, I have to remain strong. Otherwise, it would be an affront to their resolve.
You're serious? That's how far you're prepared to go? And I should be the one to tell you there's no point coming down here to see me.
That has nothing to do with this. You're still alive, aren't you? This can go any number of ways.
I'm behaving just like a coward would. That's what the king said to me during the Battle of Van. The war may be over, but he hasn't stopped fighting. For you and his family. On the battlefield, I was able to see firsthand the weight of everything he's carrying.
What are you saying?
No matter how much you want to intercede, I won't let you.
Don't do this to yourself, Carla. Duke Carmine has already given his life to cast light on the darkness within our kingdom. There's no point in making a martyr of yourself.
It may look that way, but that's not what I'm doing. I don't want to be a burden. Not anymore. While I live, I'll only be a weight on all your shoulders.
Duchess Excel Walter, for distinguishing yourself in this recent war, your appeal has been granted. The right to trial for Castor Vargas and Carla Vargas has been transferred from the Royal Court of Elfrieden and granted to Provisional King Soma instead. Let's begin. This trial overseen by the king is now in session.
Prime Minister, before we proceed any further, would you read the charges against the accused?
Here are the indictments. Former General Castor Vargas and his daughter Carla failed to recognize His Majesty King Soma's claim to the throne, choosing to rebel. These actions warrant the charge of treason. A fit punishment for this crime is as follows: forfeiture of territory, property, and execution.
There is no denying that these two have committed some foolish actions. It should be made perfectly clear that they did not plot to usurp the throne. Their loyalty to King Albert and their friendship with Jorg Carmine led to their belief that the kingdom was in peril and must be defended.
The fact His Majesty's throne was relinquished by King Albert makes your point moot. For a retainer to harbor any misgivings is just inexcusable.
This change in leadership not only threw off the casters, but left the people in a state of confusion. I think that the fault lies partly with your grace for not addressing their concerns. Let us not forget, despite scale of operations, no lives were lost in the assault. Majesty, it would be a shame if you would sentence the two of them to death now.
Well, Castor, What do you have to say in your defense?
I've only one thing. While I started the war, Carla did nothing but follow my orders.
But, Father!
I will assume all punishment for her onto myself. Therefore, Highness, I beseech you to take my life and spare my daughter.
You can't!
It's impossible to overlook the fact that Carla was the one who led the air squadron. The truth is, she raised the flag of rebellion. Surely she knew the consequence of her actions. Carla, do you have anything to say in your defense?
I do not.
And you're absolutely sure of that?
Very well, there is one thing. I apologize for my lack of clarity.
Aren't you going to beg for forgiveness?
No, I will not. Please sentence me as you will.
Very well. Now, as for the rest of you, what do you think is an appropriate judgment for these two? After all, you've heard their words, and I would like to hear your unreserved opinions.
Majesty, you make it sound as though their guilt has already been decided before the trial is concluded.
Who is that man speaking?
Pilteri Saracen, head of the House of Saracen.
I regard this as the setting to determine the severity of one's crimes. The accused made their stance clear. Yes, they have agreed to submit to any form of punishment. However, that should not be taken as an admission of their guilt.
Well said indeed. Young Saracen speaks truth.
That's Owen Jabana, head of the House of Jabana.
Prime Minister, please. Duke Vargas has been keeping the kingdom safe for over 100 years. Long before we were even born. And I do believe that fact should be taken into consideration.
What are you arguing? That we reduce his sentence?
Nothing of the sort. Duke Vargas is proven. He has already lost his status and honor, and yet you're still demanding more. Some would call taking his life and the life of his daughter bloodthirsty. Don't you think the sentence is a bit too severe?
So we're to forgive the traitors. Is that what you're saying?
I think it would be regrettable not to. Duke Vargas could serve the kingdom for another 200 or 300 years. There is no one in the kingdom better suited to lead the Air Force into battle than the man here on trial. That's the point I wish to make.
Your Majesty, like you said, if one possesses an aptitude, you'll find a way to make use of it. Are we prepared to lose talent this hard to find? Whatever your decision, I stand by my friend.
Well, what do the rest of you think?
The law is the law. If we forgive this treason, 'twould set a poor example for other retainers.
Both of them were fools to defy your majesty, and will be of no use to you henceforth. These acts of treason are a blot on the reputation of the nobility. Your majesty, please pass your just decree.
Yes, if I may, yes, it's true the law is the law. Yet, if you apply it strictly, it will work against you. Are you prepared to lose the hearts of the people?
As for myself, how strictly the law is enforced doesn't interest me. Sire, I was merely curious about his character.
Kill them. Machiavelli's The Prince. It's been called the Devil's Book. In the few hundred years since it was first published, it has come under attack by the Christian Church. A section particularly singled out for criticism is Chapter 8. It's entitled, Concerning Those Who Have Obtained a Principality by Wickedness. Further along, in Chapter 17, Machiavelli asks the reader whether it is better to be loved than it is to be feared. Chapter 8 poses the question, how is it possible for a person to take a country by nefarious means and subsequently live a tranquil life without the threat of insurrection occurring? The answer is, it is possible because they were skilled in employing cruelties, which assured peace. Furthermore, in Chapter 17 of the book, it asserts the following. It is better for a ruler to be feared than loved. Also, this particular section makes another point. When leading an army, one never needs to be concerned with one's reputation, especially for ruthlessness. However, earlier in Chapter 8, Machiavelli explains how acts of cruelty should be effectively used. They are to be performed all at once, and never repeated. Interestingly enough, he stops short of giving examples of specific acts or how much ruthlessness a leader should be made to tolerate. It would be too simple to merely say, Kill all of your enemies. If you carefully read the examples that Machiavelli does give, you'll notice the targets of these acts of cruelty. They're not always adversaries, but often one's own allies. According to the philosopher, an apt ruler must purge informers, opportunists, all treacherous insiders. And this act must be carried out all at once. Even though it may appear cruel to others, it must be done regardless of opinion. It's all right. They're under my command.
You could have told us.
Aisha, put your sword away.
But what about...
That's Kagetora, leader of the Black Cats, an intelligence unit that reports directly to me. Contact the Forbidden Army members stationed outside the residences. Instruct them to seize all relevant evidence. If they meet resistance, have it put down.
Majesty, I hope it's not too much to ask, but could you explain what just happened?
The traitors were executed. All 12 of them. They worked with Amadonia and other nations.
They were nothing more than weather vanes, sadly, pointing in the direction of the strongest wind.
Yes. While people may call my actions cruel, it was necessary in my eyes. The disease needed to be cut out.
Even so, those 12 houses have long served the royal family.
Some have served the kingdom for generations, at least on the surface. But the reality is they conspired with other countries behind the king's back. When suspicions arose, they'd sow discontent to distract investigations from themselves. That was the true nature of these people.
All I know is if anything were to happen to the ones I love, Licia, Aisha, and Juna, and they ended up getting hurt as a result, I would have regretted not taking such measures until my death. Returning to Machiavelli, he also says the following in The Prince. Fortune is a kind of force that cannot be completely governed by us. It rules over half the actions in our lifetimes. However, one should also be aware the other half rests entirely within our own hands. That while we can't prevent sudden changes of fate, if we could just prepare ahead of time and take necessary action, then we could also be able to mitigate our destiny, change its course.
Look, I understand your thinking, Souma. But what do we do about House Saracen and Jabana?
We have uncovered information regarding them. The heads of the two families you see before you were also in league with the other 12.
Yes, but you've left out one important detail.
However, that ended with the current generation. Pilteri and Owen have proven themselves by cutting all ties with the traitors. Pilteri, despite his youth, excels in the military and literary arts, and Owen is a man possessing both honesty and passion. They'll serve the kingdom with loyalty and no ulterior motives.
We pledge absolute fealty to your majesty.
Please. I've never been huge on formality.
I must say it is amusing. Imagine if we had remained silent or had sided with the other 12 houses. Then our heads would no longer be attached to our necks either.
Well, since you brought it up, if that was the course you had chosen, I was to provoke the two of you to try to make you angry. Then, if you pandered to His Majesty like the other 12, he would not have much use for you. I don't think it's necessary to explain further.
Why, certainly not. Best left to the imagination, I say.
You really thought this through that far?
Majesty, it is time.
I'm ready. First is Castor Vargas. For rebelling against my ultimatum, you are guilty of treason.
I committed this crime, and the entirety of it rests with me. I beg you, at least show mercy to Carla.
You're not the one who gets to decide her fate.
I will judge you.
And frankly, there's no other verdict that could be reached. However, certain considerations must be made. You have defended the kingdom for over a century. Your service is unparalleled. Therefore, I will spare your life. You will be remanded over to exile. Also, your entry into the former Duchy of Vargas is forbidden, as is any further contact with your son Carl and his mother Excella. Excel, it was your son-in-law who committed this crime. I'd watch him closely.
Sire, yes. I shall abide by your command without fail.
Carla, you are equally as guilty. You also lack your father's distinguished history, so your sentence can't be reduced.
I expected not.
If that's your judgment, kill me! My daughter's only crime was turning against you in her father's direction. I beg you, strip away my merits and give them to her!
Take him away.
Let me go! Sire, I beg you! At least spare my daughter's life! Let me die in her place! Let her live!
There's no denying your involvement. But, given your role, death would be unjust.
Huh?
While your life will be spared, your status will be reduced to that of a slave. You'll be owned by the royal family, meaning Licia and myself.
Yes, sire.
Further instructions will follow, but for the time being, I have one order that cannot wait.
I'll carry it out.
If I ever go astray, do not hesitate. You strike me down. The day that I become a tyrant, it'll be your job, Carla. You will have to end my reign.
That's a huge weight to bear. So why trust me?
Because Licia and the others might not be able to do it. There may come a time when I lose clarity, growing increasingly drunk on power. And it frightens me. I'm worried whether or not Licia and the others would stop me in time or at all. That's why, Carla, you have to be the one. The person who takes my life before I bring sorrow to myself as well as those dearest to me.
You have my promise. I shall abide by your command.
And with that, your judgment has been decided.
Souma! Your Majesty!
It's nothing. I'm just a little tired, I suppose.
But you almost...
I told you I'm fine. I'd just like to be left alone for a bit.
To be honest, the way His Majesty faltered, it was like a soldier returning from his first battle, after killing someone for the first time.
When Souma had those 12 noblemen executed in there, it was clear he wasn't his usual self. Tell me, Aisha, how would you support a soldier who has just experienced killing someone?
Well, let me see. I've never been part of the military, so I'm not an expert in these matters. But something I often hear is you should try and take their mind off of it.
How would we do that, though? I just got an idea, but I need your help pulling it off.
When you commit your acts of cruelty, do it all at once. A ruler never needs to be concerned with his reputation when it comes to ruthlessness. He must dare to choose fighting, unless he wishes to perish. And when his time does come, and he has regrets of what he should have done, it'll be too late. I understand what Machiavelli was writing about, but I'm having second thoughts about my decision, whether it was right. Huh?
Huh? Just what do you two think you're doing?
Sorry, but I thought I told you I needed to be left alone.
Just look at the state you're in. We can't leave you alone when you're like this.
Beg your pardon, Your Majesty.
Could either one of you explain what's going on right now?
Well, you know, we're helping. Helping you forget about what happened earlier.
Yeah?
Okay, look. You're free to do whatever you want with us, alright? Whatever is fine.
But you should know, this is my first time doing anything like this. Though I'm certain Your Majesty will be most cordial.
This is a lot to lay on someone all of a sudden, don't you think?
I mean, what are
are you suggesting?
If you don't mind, Souma, it's a bit cold. Can we get under the covers with you? Your hand is freezing. I wanted to confess something. I thought that I knew the kind of weight you had to carry on your shoulders. At least I felt that until today.
Every time you have a difficult choice to make, it's a painful experience for you, isn't it?
And we're family. Isn't that what you called us? We can't let you carry the weight of that responsibility all by yourself.
Don't treat us like strangers, Your Majesty. Why have a first queen and second queen if you'll only push us away? I mean, I'm not officially second queen yet, but...
You were always there to support us, to comfort and lift us up during the hard times. So let us return the favor, and do the same for you.
Listen, you two.
Yes, Souma?
What is it?
This is nice.
He actually agreed to pay reparations to get back Van? Is my brother that big of a moron? And where does he think that money's coming from? The elderly in town are gonna suffer the most. He could have just let the kingdom have it. That way Julius would have avoided any post-war accountability.
Possibly, yes, considering the Principality hadn't been entirely defeated. If he had left the territory the way it was, likely neither Elfrieden nor the Empire would have put on such a show of force. Had he been more patient, we might have been able to make an additional move.
In theory, yes, but it may not be as simple as you're making it out to be.
You'll never know. You met Solo once, isn't that right, Sebastian? After seeing him up close, what's your opinion?
Well, let me think for a minute. On the outside, he appeared to be an ordinary young man, one who openly lends an ear to others' views regardless of their position. What struck me upon first meeting him was how he genuinely seemed to care for those who were close to him.
He's the complete opposite of everything my father represented, which may provide us with the perfect chance. The ideal opponent to pull off my greatest gamble. I have waited for this.
But Princess, are you sure you want to take that risk?
This is how things get back on track. From now on, no more letting that idiot brother of mine or Soma run the show. We'll be the ones who get the last laugh. There's no backing down now.
How is that matter coming along?
Sire, the plan is making steady progress. One might even say it's going quite smoothly.
One might say you're being a little evasive. Just tell me if there is something we should be worried about.
To be honest, it may be going a bit too smoothly. Almost as if there was some other power at work here. In which case, it's conceivable the outcome could take an unexpected turn at the last moment.
You know, I'd like to avoid unforeseen circumstances. However, at this point, we can't back out either.
Correct.
Changing course is now out of the question. All we can do is watch out for adjustments, and keep moving forward.
Understood, sire.
Your Majesty!
Something tells me this can't wait.
Excuse me, Prime Minister, for interrupting your meeting.
So, what's this emergency, Ludwin? Huh?
It's an acquaintance of mine, sire. They've gone and done something truly outrageous.
You better discuss it at once.
So this person, they're a childhood friend of Ludwin's, right?
Uh-huh. She's been called the Forbidden Army's mad scientist.
Is that so? I almost feel like I've heard of her before.
Wait, a garage? Nothing. It's not important. Still, I'm confused by what I'm looking at.
A dungeon entrance. It's quite large inside.
Dungeon? You mean as in a dungeon? Is it supposed to look this artificial?
There are many different types. Some are merely caves, while others are ancient fortress basements, paved with stone. There are even mysterious spaces encased completely in metal.
As for this one, this abandoned dungeon was bequeathed by the royal family, later converted into a research facility, and moved into by the eccentric Maxwell family. Genia, it's Ludwin Arx. Can you open the door? Yeah, Genia, are you alright?
Don't startle me like that, Lou! I accidentally knocked over some material I was experimenting with. Woo! I'm just glad none of the chemicals were dangerous.
Some sort of metal.
are you so interested?
The staircase is glowing and you don't find anything about this that's peculiar?
Must be magic.
I keep forgetting magic makes the impossible real here. For Alicia and the other inhabitants, something like this isn't out of the ordinary.
We've reached the lowest level, where Genia's laboratory is located.
This is a dungeon? You're joking!
Your Majesty. Huh? Welcome. I'll introduce you to Genia.
I hear you. I'll be there in a second, Lou. Thanks for coming all this way to see me. So who are these two guys?
Yeah, Genia, manners, I beg you. You do realize you're speaking to His Majesty King Souma and Princess Licia. Please forgive her. She doesn't receive any guests.
What do you know? It is him. As soon as I looked a bit closer, I recognized your face from the Gemstone broadcasts. It's an honor to make your acquaintance, Your Majesty. I'm Genia Maxwell. Please welcome to my humble abode.
I'm Souma Kazuya, the provisional King of Elfrieden. It's a pleasure to meet you. Allow me to introduce my fiancé.
Licia Elfrieden, a pleasure.
I am well aware of your engagement, and I humbly offer you to all the health and happiness in the world.
That's very kind, but there's no need to be so formal. We're the ones who are dropping in on you, after all. Please, just speak casually to us.
Woo, thank you. That's the deal, Mr. King, whatever you say.
Hey, not that informal.
It's fine.
But sire, she...
Whatever she's done, I'm sure we can address later. But for the time being, I'm more interested in learning about Genia.
No point standing outside all day. Come on in, and I'll make us some coffee. Let's start from the beginning. Like I said, name's Genia Maxwell. Proud owner of this dungeon, as well as a researcher, scientist, and inventor. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm a mage in the Forbidden Army, too. I was assigned to the Weapons Development Division, but I did some things that got me dismissed.
What did you do?
She created something quite scandalous.
You know how war tears up the countryside, right? I invented these arrowheads that were loaded with seeds for fast-growing plants. The idea was wherever there was a war, there would be lots of greenery on the battlefield left over.
Tree planting during wartime? The idea is kind of far-fetched, isn't it?
Listen, I'm not gonna toot my own horn. But I think it's a brilliant concept. Then again, maybe I shouldn't have enchanted them with light magic. Though it did help accelerate the plant's growth, I may have stepped over the line a little bit with that one.
Now I remember! You're that mad scientist of the Forbidden Army. That event was your doing, wasn't it?
I'm not sure I want to ask, but what event are we talking about?
Well, you see, before you were brought here by the summoning ritual, this one training ground and the laboratory attached to it were once swallowed up by a vast ocean of trees.
Oh yeah, sure. But it's not like I ever expected them to grow all at once.
Let's not dredge up the past, Genia.
Can't say I was fond of the atmosphere in the development division, though. It's weird to have all those brilliant minds and force them to work on single projects. Don't you think a rigid structure only stifles ideas? Personally, I believe the most superior inventions are born when the freedom to create is present in the laboratory.
You sure have your hands full with her, Ludwin.
What? No,
By the way, Mr. King, are you aware of what kind of lineage the Maxwells have?
Their house is known for their research of various artifacts that adventurers have brought back from exploring dungeons.
Indeed. My family has been conducting research for several generations. And after all those years of research, patterns emerged. Until it reached a point where we caught sight of a vague something.
And what is that?
You could call it natural law. Entirely separate from magic.
A separate natural law?
Let me ask you something. You use gemstones a lot, right, Mr. King? But do you really understand them? What sort of things they are?
I do. From what I've been told, they are ancient artifacts discovered deep within dungeons, and they work by utilizing two magics. The first being the Sylph Wind Spirits, and the other is the Undine Water Spirits. According to all I've learned, that's how they're able to deliver picture and sound.
Well, I hate to contradict you, but there's a couple things wrong with your perception.
Curious to hear what?
And I'd be more than happy to explain. First is in regards to the part about how the magic of Sylph and Undine spirits are intertwined with the stones, when there has been no evidence.
I mean, they are spirits, aren't they?
Well, I've never seen one myself. These spirits are the stuff of legend from our mythology.
And I won't argue with that, but mythology isn't enough to prove they actually exist. Because the mysterious power called magic exists in our world, the truth ends up being harder for people to accept. When we find something unexplainable, it's easier to categorize the discovery as the power of either magic or spirits. And as a result, many phenomena are brushed off as mythical forces at work, but the truth is far different. While we were busy studying the gemstones that were found in the dungeons, we accidentally discovered that if you use water and wind magic on them, they would take in the surrounding scenery, allowing the image to be projected by using the accompanying receivers, which were also discovered alongside the gemstones. The whole business about Sylph's and Undine's magics being responsible, that was just an explanation someone came up with later on about how the spirit's blessings made it possible.
So you're saying there aren't any spirits involved in the process?
It'd be foolhardy of me to say with any certainty. Until it's ruled out, it's always possible. Moving on to your second mistake. The belief their true purpose is to transfer picture and sound. That assumption is wrong.
But isn't that what they're meant for?
As I've said time and again, when it comes to the transmitting functions of the gemstones, those were found by accident during research. In other words, you're using them to broadcast, but in the grand scheme of things, that's only one of their functions.
Huh? So then are you saying the gemstones have some sort of other intended use? If that wasn't their original purpose, what exactly are they?
Based on my findings, they're known as dungeon cores.
Dungeon cores?
Dungeon cores. In terms of supporting a dungeon, they are said to be the most important element. As long as they're present, ferocious monsters will continue to appear. But if you destroy them or otherwise shut them down, the monsters stop appearing and the dungeon becomes abandoned. It's up to the adventurers to go out and explore these various chambers, but ultimately they have one objective: to seek out and shut down the core. If they manage to bring one back, they are able to earn a huge amount of wealth and honor from the entire nation. In short, the objects we refer to collectively as gemstones are actually, in fact, destroyed dungeon cores. And unfortunately, as of now, we can only study them in their broken state. Despite our best efforts, as of yet, nobody has brought back a working dungeon core to the surface for us to thoroughly examine.
Don't we want to avoid more monsters wandering around?
Okay, fair point, but still, wouldn't you like to study one that's in working order? And find out what secrets they hold?
Aren't you able to restart a dead one?
Believe me, I've tried but haven't succeeded. The problem is, we don't even know how they typically function. The unknown can be frightening.
Which is why people use magic to explain it away.
Oh? What exactly do you mean?
It's just human nature. We are surprisingly reasonable. But if we don't recognize something that can't be explained using a pre-existing system, then we fear it. We force explanations on new phenomena in order to understand it.
I knew you'd get what I was driving at! I can tell you and I are gonna get along, Mr. King.
Fun fact. So back in the world where I originally came from, we have what's called the pursuit of science, which is completely different from magic.
Oh yeah? When you have a moment, I would sure like to hear all about it. Similarly, the members of House Maxwell have a name for this kind of study in natural law. For convenience sake, we call it over-science.
I'm not familiar with the term.
Well, you should know I practice it, which makes me an over-scientist. On that note, it'll be better if I show you my latest creation in person. Surely an earnest supporter of mine would love to have a peek. I proudly present my latest invention. I have named it the Little Susumu Mark V.
The name's kinda lame.
You know how the Navy relies on wind power or dragons to propel large-scale ships across the water? Well, the Little Susumu Mark V alone can move a vessel without having to depend on any other source.
Oh, so it's some sort of propulsion device?
Exactly. Allow me to explain further. The loop atop the structure sucks up whatever's in front of it, and then expels it out into the space behind.
Huh. I can see how it's applicable in terms of the water. What would happen if we turned it on in the laboratory?
Such a curious mind, King. Despite location change, the principle's the same. The ring sucks in air and expels it. Care for a demonstration?
What? No! Wait a minute, Genia! Majesty! Princess Licia! Are you alright?
More or less.
We're still alive.
That's a wallop. I had it pointing backwards.
Genia! What if I wasn't here to stop it and something happened to His Majesty?
Now, no one was hurt and I saw it in action. I've got to hand it to you, Genia. It's an amazing invention.
Isn't it? I'm sure you're dying to know how it works, huh? Basically, the loop part is made from a special metal that has a modified spell engraved in it, which channels the energy. And so by feeding it energy, you get the little Susumu Mark V. The first of its kind, a machine which takes in and expels magic. Just one of these can do the work of a giant sea dragon.
What is your power source? It would have to be magic, right?
It has one of these installed.
Huh?
That looks like a cursor.
You know what they are?
Come to think of it, we also use magic to mine ores. One problem. Whenever there's a cursed ore somewhere nearby, our magic stops working for some reason. And if you try to force it to work, kaboom!
It explodes? Sounds dangerous.
It's frustrating for miners, since if you happen to run into one of these ores while digging, you can't really proceed any further. Now you see why we refer to it as cursed. It's a piece of stone that's divinely jinxed. And unfortunately for us, there's a large vein running straight underneath the kingdom.
No offense, Princess, but you sound incredibly ridiculous.
Huh?
On the contrary, one might say the fact that there's so much of it buried beneath the kingdom shows that our country is divinely blessed. The curse ore isn't jinxed, and doesn't prevent the use of magic. Think about it for a minute. The material doesn't render those powers unusable. In fact, using them near one makes it explode. So then where does the energy for that kaboom come from?
If I'm understanding right, you mean to tell me the cursed ore can absorb magic?
Impressive, Mr. King. You're correct. Rather than repelling it, the ore actually takes in the energy. Then, after it exceeds its tolerance level, the stored energy is suddenly released. Quite dramatically, I might add. In fact, after careful experimentation, I've managed to succeed in retrieving the magic energy that had been absorbed into the cursed ore. Also, I'm using it as the power source for this device.
Sorry, you're what? I don't think Genia realizes how serious this is. If it's true, this thing is like a rechargeable battery. Genius somehow managed to develop the technology to store energy, here in a reality where the steam engine was never invented. With this kind of technology, the kingdom could take a giant leap forward. However, once word gets out that the power source is a cursed stone, it's bound to create religious friction all across the world. Moreover, according to Licia, there's a major vein of the material spread throughout the kingdom. If we don't play this right, a war with other nations could start over our resources. This technology is revolutionary. On one hand, it has the potential to make us the greatest superpower on the continent of Landia, while on the other hand, it's potentially dangerous enough to destroy our country.
Soma, what's the matter?
Oh, nothing much. Thinking of the high risk, high reward of this situation has got my brain working overtime. I didn't expect this, but it turns out she's as critical to us as Tomoe. I'll explain it to you in detail later. But for right now, what can we do to anchor Genia here in Elfrieden?
Since she's of the House of Maxwell, I think that could be enough. But if you want something more concrete, she can marry a person you trust and raise a family in the kingdom.
Yeah, that could work. Judging by what you've seen so far, do you think she has feelings for Ludwin?
My fellow female intuition's telling me there's about a 60% chance.
Women confuse me 100% of the time.
And what is your opinion of Ludwin's feelings towards her, Soma?
Oh, I'm 99% sure he really likes her. We men aren't exactly difficult to read. If I may ask, do you have feelings for Genia here?
Don't you think that's a rather sudden and personal question, Your Majesty?
To be straightforward, I want her to marry someone I can trust. Considering how she's a key figure for our kingdom and all.
If I'm following along, you want me to be Lu's wife?
Well, Genia, would you have any objections there?
No what? I'd be fine with it. Despite my dedication to research, I suspected I would settle down with a strong warrior type. I also calculated how you would be a pretty good match for that criteria, Lu.
Going against His Majesty's wishes is the last thing I want, but if I were to marry her, that would surely mean the end of the Maxwell family line.
If that's a real issue, she can always go by Maxwell Arts. Also, you have my word the royal family will pay for all wedding expenses. Are there any other issues to address?
But, sire, I'm not sure.
Well, Ludwin, the king asked you a question.
Oh, yes, of course. Genia, Would you care to be my wife?
Are you positive you want me, Lou? After all, I'm not exactly noblewoman material.
Yes, I'm aware. But even so, I still want you by my side.
You've odd taste, no offense. But, yeah, I agree. I look forward to being with you.
I trust all parties are happy with this arrangement?
No, not yet, Your Majesty. I was so overwhelmed I forgot to mention the reason why we even came down here. You see, she's the one who committed the scandalous act I mentioned.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I got so caught up in her invention, I forgot too.
Right.
Go easy, Lou. Remember, I am a key figure to the kingdom, and these brains are precious goods.
You idiot! Look, you and I are going to apologize to His Majesty together. On both our behalves, I am sorry. There is no excuse for her actions.
Your grip's a little too tight, Lou.
Sure. So, what is it she did exactly?
Don't be too harsh. But the thing is, she went and stole dragon bones.
Kinda, yeah.
Our story jumps backward now to the time before Soma Kazuya was summoned to this world. Until then, Harlem, the capital, had expanded unabated and in unplanned fashion, its streets zigzagging and winding chaotically. Soma relaid main roads and rebuilt the city to make rapid shifts in logistics possible. They also built water and sewage systems and initiated efforts to beautify the city. Furthermore, he made improvements to public sanitation by ordering the construction of large sedimentation basins for sewage treatment. During the project's excavation phase, workers discovered various bones, the remains of gargoyles, giants, and countless other monsters. The bones of a dragon were found among them. However, just as they were to be transported to the Royal Academy for study, they mysteriously turned up missing.
Genia, you were behind that stunt?
I'm terribly sorry about this.
But that happened such a long time ago. We would have forgotten if you hadn't said anything. Why even bring it up now?
I take all responsibility for bringing it to your attention. I was sorting through some of my papers and I found this note among them. I felt I had to say something.
Dear Lou, I'm taking the dragon bones. Handle all the details for me, will ya? Thanks, Genia.
You just found that note? Took you long enough, Lou.
You're the one who decided to steal dragon bones and leave me that dumb note. I don't want to hear it.
I didn't steal them. I took them for research. That's what the note was for, you dunce.
Could you save the couple squabble till later?
We are not a couple.
So you don't want to get married anymore? That was fast.
No, I didn't say that. I meant that we're not a couple as of yet.
So, what did you intend to do with the dragon bones anyway?
I thought you would never ask. Now this one's name is Mechadra. It's a mechanical dragon I cobbled together from whatever I could find. Monster components, mystery parts I discovered in dungeons and whatnot, all patched onto the dragon skeleton.
Monster components and dungeon mystery parts. Yikes, I have a bad feeling about this. This thing isn't going to start rampaging, is it?
It doesn't even move to begin with, let alone have the ability to rampage, Mr. King.
Huh? It doesn't?
Of course not. There's no critical system relaying orders to each part to make them move in concert.
In that case, why did you make it in the first place?
It's an experiment to study how the joints of living things are constructed and how they work, of course. Look, see how smoothly and easily this part moves with barely any force? It's enormous, but even I am able to do it.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Impressive, but still.
Genia, what manner of foul monstrosity have you created this time? If the Star Dragon mountain range finds out, it could cause an international incident.
Seriously?
Remind me to send a letter of apology to the Star Dragon mountain range.
Maybe we should start brainstorming a plan to rebury the bones, or have someone go and transport them back there.
Whoa there, Mr. King! What'd you do to make that happen?
Soma, you used your living poltergeist on that thing, didn't you?
Caught me. I was just a little curious.
I knew it! My calculations were correct after all! Take a look, Lou, I told you so! See how smooth the movements are?
That was never the issue with this, Genia! As for you, Your Majesty, moving around a mechanical dragon all willy-nilly like that could very well be taken as a threat to other nations!
God.
He has a point. How would one weaponize this thing?
Does the Mechadra have any armaments?
Not even I am crazy enough to deliberately arm a model made out of dragon bones and monster parts.
That means there really isn't any way to use it. It sucks to have something that other countries would be wary of, but it doesn't have to be completely useless, does it? For For the time being, we'd had better treat the Mecha Draw as a top-secret internal matter, and keep it locked down till we hear from the Star Dragon Mountain Range.
What? Consider yourself lucky you aren't being thrown in a cell.
Genia Maxwell, we're going to build you a high-tech state research lab. I will be leaving the theme of your research there up to you.
Mean it, Mr. King?
I do, but you're going to have to provide 10% of the funding.
10%, really? As the patron who has been funding all her research up to this point, I would be humbled and grateful if you would pay the whole amount, Your Majesty.
What if I agreed to that? There's just no telling when she'd start researching.
The Poncho Bridge got demolished.
Huh? But it was so convenient when I had to go shopping.
Things have been a lot more austere since Prince Julius returned. The gemstone broadcasts have been prohibited too. And now food is being rationed as well? I don't have enough to feed my children.
I hate to tell you, but the word on the street is that even those rations are about to get reduced.
What? I wish His Majesty Souma would occupy us again.
You're telling me the people are discontent? Well, that's only because I put a stop to Souma's lax public morals. A breach in the levee starts with a single ant-hole. Control the people lest they get dangerous ideas. If they're unhappy, they can blame Elfrieden for demanding such outrageous reparations. Blaming the state shows how much they know. What now? Huddles, Lord of Galois, that's who you are, isn't it?
Your Highness, help us, I beg you. There has been an uprising.
A what?
As you know, Galois lies on the outskirts of the country. We don't have enough food to feed the people, and some of them are even starving to death of late. Their discontent has erupted into outright bedlam.
Funny. As I recall, Lord Huddles, you refused to put your faith in the young prince, and you foolishly chose to reinforce your troops on your own instead. You can sleep in the bed you made and defend yourself.
But Your Highness, the longer the riots go on, the more likely it is that discord will spread to other courts of the Principality. Besides, if you make a show of strength now, then perhaps,
I shall take the lead of our forces and crush the rebellion in Galois.
Your Majesty, play with us!
Your Majesty!
Pardon, sire. I'm happy that you're entertaining Ro and the others, but don't you have more important things to do?
It's all right. I actually don't have anything pressing to do at the moment.
Oh, well, in that case, you two can keep on playing with His Majesty to your heart's content.
Careful now, I am the king.
This is quite the sight, Master.
Huh? Whoa, you are throwing stones in a glass house, Carla. You look creepy in that, like a clown in the business suit.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I feel self-conscious as it is.
And isn't that skirt really kind of short on you?
Stop looking at me! The head chambermaid. She made me wear this.
Ah, right. So this is what Serena's into then. You finished your chambermaid training yet?
My training?
Did I say something bad?
That woman. She whipped me like with a real whip.
Hold up, what?
It gets worse. It was a special whip enchanted with some kind of magic. It didn't leave a mark on me, though the lashes burned my skin like fire.
The whip is love, and love must be accepted.
Carla's one of the toughest fighters I know, so if she's scared of this lady, then you know it's rough.
Now, Carla.
Yes?
I seem to remember asking you to kindly make up His Majesty's bed in his office.
But I couldn't possibly collect the sheets of a man I actually know. It's too much.
What are you talking about? If you were to be a real chambermaid, then when His Majesty and the princess are so...
Okay, kids, let's go play over here.
Okay. The least.
I see. So, did they put down the uprising then?
They did. Rather brutally. I'd venture to guess Julius wanted to make an example of them.
That's a misguided show of force. Cruelty will only serve to create further unrest among the people. Hakuya, what did the emissary from Van have to say?
The people's representative from Van sent this.
We, the good citizens of Van, profess our true allegiance to the Kingdom of Elfrieden and request reinforcements? Souma, did you know this would happen?
I will admit, I anticipated some movement, but I have no idea what the people of Van really want, or what they might do next. Now, since we have received the formal request for aid, yes, the Kingdom will accept it. Send reinforcements.
Damn it! To think Van would betray me! The very city of my birth! Those filthy ingrates! Wagging their tails and begging scraps from Soma like mangy curs!
My lord, there's news. The Grand Nobleman Lord Cutlass has turned traitor to the Amadonian royal family. He's rebelling.
Lord Cutlass?
Lord Shadler took in the people who fled from Galua and now defies our request for their return. He is revolting against your highness. The nobles loyal to Roroa are banding together and demanding your highness's abdication.
Lord Shadler? He's rebelling?
The people are rising up and moving on Galua.
I've lost control? What's happening?
I see. So Julius's forces have turned against him.
It's simply impossible to put down rebellions like these, especially when they are all occurring at once. Allegedly, Julius has taken a small force with him. Sources say they fled to the Empire.
So far, everything is going exactly as we expected. Might things be going too well?
You mean the uncoordinated rebellions? We never counted on that happening, and it's mildly concerning indeed.
Is it like you said? That there's some other will at work?
After Julius's exile, Amadonia was a state without a leader. Surrounding nations scrambled for control of Amadonia, the Lunarian Orthodox Papal State to the north, and the Republic of Turgis to the south. Zem, the mercenary state to the west, showed no sign of invading, intending instead to maintain their perpetual neutrality. They did, however, send mercenaries to the other two countries. The Lunarian Orthodox Papal State is home to the Lunarian Orthodox Church, which worships the moon goddess Lunaria. It is a religious movement whose pope presides over both church and state. In response to the rebellion in the Principality of Amadonia, the Lunarian state dispatched forces along their border with Amadonia to defend the adherents within their nation. Another fact of note, the Republic of Turgis was a bitterly cold nation. The southern peninsula in particular was bound by ice and snow for most of the year, and its leaders had long coveted all nearby more temperate territories. So, the Principality found itself in utter disarray and vulnerable to invasion. Fortunately, Turgis's forces were halted by the brave fighting of the aged General Herman, who boasted a century of experience in war and was the Lord of Nelva, a fortified city in the south. However, how long could this peace last? The Principality of Amadonia, without its crown prince, was still in quite a precarious position.
So they want the Kingdom of Elfrieden to annex the entirety of Amadonia?
Yes, sire. General Herman Neumann requested, but it's a joint plea, from Neumann and the former finance minister. You may remember Gatsby Colbert.
I guess it makes sense from their perspective. They would all rather give themselves over to the kingdom than end up divided and conquered.
If General Herman, the one who stopped Turgis in its tracks, and Colbert, the former finance minister, both strongly support annexation, then I doubt anybody would oppose them.
Hakuya, could this be that other will at work?
I can't be certain.
So, what are we going to do?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. There would be many foreseeable downsides in annexing Amadonia. We might as well look for the upsides, though. Population growth, which in the long run would increase our strength exponentially. Furthermore, Amadonia is rich in material resources. We could look forward to a stable supply of those. Now let's talk about the downsides. First, there's the food shortage crisis.
I thought that things were going well in Van.
Yes, but that's one city of many. When you consider all of Amadonia as a whole, it would be a lot to ask of us when we barely solved our own food crisis. It worries me. That said, it was a hostile nation just days ago, so governing it could prove to be difficult. Before this, the Union of Eastern Nations, and Amadonia, and the Republic of Turgis were the only countries with whom we shared a boundary. But now we would have Zen and the Lunarian Orthodox Papal State as neighbors.
And the more countries we are adjacent to, the more complicated our diplomacy becomes.
Also, while I really wasn't counting on them in the first place, if we annex Amadonia, then we won't be receiving our war reparations any longer.
So are you saying we shouldn't annex them?
I would prefer not to if I had another option, but it appears that we have no choice but to agree to it.
If we refuse, it will belie our justification for integrating Van into the kingdom in the first place, and we did so at the request of its people.
We can't very well admit Van while at the same time excluding the rest of the country. Also, if the people of the city end up forsaking their countrymen, they'd be disenchanted with the kingdom.
Besides, if we left them to the invading forces of the Republic of Turgis and the Lunarian Orthodox Papal State, then our own country would be overrun with the refugees anyway.
True, in that case, it's better to take them all in like this than as refugees. so we can begin looking after them. It may be a lot of work, but in the long run, I've no doubt it'll pay off. Seriously though, good grief. It's official, all Amadonia shall be admitted into the kingdom. Be sure all other nations are aware.
Yes, sire.
The naval forces under Excel's command are to be deployed along the border with the Republic of Turgis, where they'll stand ready to attack at my word.
With that, the territories of Amadonia were formally annexed into the Kingdom of Elfrieden, and the transition was achieved peacefully, without incident.
Honorable Gatsby Colbert.
Yes, sire.
Sir Colbert, I commend you uniting the whole of Amadonia. If not for your efforts, there'd be further strife, and the people of Amadonia would have suffered a great deal of undue misery.
Your words are too kind, Your Majesty. Be that as it may, sire, there is something that I must deliver to you. The Principality of Amadonia's internal income and expenditure reports, and a documentation of rights. During the war, these were kept hidden away, so they'd be safe no matter the outcome.
Hang on, Julius was put in charge of the Principality without those? I kind of feel sorry for him now. That is an incredibly generous gift. It will help me govern. However, you should keep them in your possession and hear what I have to say next. Former Finance Minister of Amadonia, Colbert. Are you willing to serve me?
Yes, sire.
Then I hereby declare you Finance Minister of the Kingdom of Elfrieden and charge you with maintaining its finances.
A moment, please. Don't you mean overseeing Amadonia's finances?
You are Finance Minister for the Kingdom of Elfrieden.
But sire, I am still an Amadonian.
It doesn't matter. Employing those who are willing and qualified wherever they're from is now the Elfrieden way.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Amadonia was less wealthy as opposed, then much of its budget was funneled to the military. Yet nevertheless, you kept the government from bankruptcy, which took great skill and should be commended. I want people like you on my side. Kingdom of Elfrieden Finance Minister Colbert. My thanks for these documents. I remit them to your possession as tools of your trade. Take these all with you and work hard to rebuild the lands of Amadonia.
Sire, thank you. Your wish is my command, Majesty.
Herman Neumann.
I commend you for stopping the Republic of Turgis' army. Without your valiant deeds, our relief efforts would not have made it, and the situation would have devolved into chaos.
A warrior vows to defend his people. That remains true whether there is a ruler or not. I did nothing more than what a soldier is expected to do. I too have a gift that I would be privileged to offer Your Majesty. However, once it has been given, I do hope that you will choose not to return it. The southern region of Amadonia has a thriving wool industry and produces the finest quality wool. These are bolts woven from that wool. I do hope that you will accept them.
Oh. May I take a closer look?
I would truly be honored.
This feels familiar. Almost like carpeting. Huh? Carpeting? A rug given as a gift? Hang on a minute. I'm positive I've heard of a setup like this before. So tell me something, Ermin.
What is it, sire?
There wouldn't happen to be a woman hiding rolled up somewhere in these rugs now, would there? Seriously?
Oh man, no fair! This was gonna be the surprise of a lifetime! You're no fun! Leaping out, ready or not, bum-ba-da-bum! Hey, I'm Aurora! So it gave me away, huh? I was really looking forward to the look on your face.
Oh, a woman in my world did something similar once upon a time.
You mean I stole someone else's act? How embarrassing.
Hers was a bit different. She was naked, you weren't.
Oh, what kind of woman was this? A sicko or something?
Maybe, I don't know. Her beauty was widely accepted to have changed the course of history, but legend has it her nose was a bit bigger than yours.
Why would history have changed because of the size of some lady's nose? Is that a euphemism for her breasts in your world?
Just forget it. So may I call you Roroa? You're Julius' sister, right?
Yes, I am. I've got both beauty and brains, by the way, and I'm hands down the prettiest girl in, like, literally all of Amadonia. Oh, and yeah, you can totally call me Roroa. And I am the daughter of the former Amadonian Crown Prince, Gaius VIII, so my full name is Roroa Amadonia.
Nice to meet you, Roroa. But what exactly is your purpose here?
I came here to marry you, obviously.
All right, marry me, obviously.
Wait, what?
obviously.
Alright, marry me, obviously.
Wait, what?
Excuse me? You're the Princess of Amadonia, aren't you? So what are you talking about?
It's pretty obvious, sis. You did the same thing.
What did you call me?
My sweet sister, Licia, let's focus on your betrothal. After all, you used the engagement to make Souma's rule legitimate.
How could you possibly know that?
Never underestimate a merchant's network. Anyhow, the same applies to me. If Souma wisely decides to marry me, he gains legitimacy to govern the Principality of Amadonia. That's a good thing.
Yes, you're right. But while I felt that way about our engagement to start, I now genuinely wish to support his rule as this nation's king. As time's gone by, I have even developed feelings for him. It's not just me. Aisha and June have chosen to stand by Souma of our own will, and not because it's strategic. We are happy just to be at His Majesty's side. Yes, of course.
Ah, sounds like there's no problem then. You know, I'm quite fond of Souma myself. I've seen him on the Gemstone broadcasts, and he's even better looking in person. By the way, since we're on that subject, why not set aside time on the broadcasts where you promote local wares for a small fee? It's just a thought, but I bet there are quite a few merchants who'd be happy to pay.
Good idea. How did I miss that? Never in a million years did I think someone who's never seen a TV would come up with the idea of running commercials. She's right, though. If it works out, the ads could help cover the cost of producing the programs.
Based on what I've seen, I'm sure you can lead both the Kingdom of Elfrieden and Amadonia in the immediate future and into a prosperous new era as well. Not to mention, it's always been my goal to marry someone who's as fascinating as you.
And you're sure you're okay with this? I mean, I am responsible for the death of your father, Gaius.
If you're gonna bring that up, then you should know I'm the one who drove my brother out.
Sorry?
I told you I have connections, and together we arranged for multiple uprisings to break out.
So those rebellions that were happening simultaneously were orchestrated by you?
You seriously didn't catch on? Pretty crafty of me.
Yeah.
So don't worry about my old man, because I betrayed my own family. Although, it's not like I feel absolutely no guilt over it. On the battlefield, it's kill or be killed. Nothing you can do about that. Amadonia is a very poor country. While we have mineral resources, that's about all. As for our food self-sufficiency, calling it low would be kind. Colbert and I work desperately to find more money, right?
Indeed. Unfortunately, the funds that the princess and civil servants raised were taken, and diverted into military expenditures.
Women were forced to sell their bodies. Families sold children, so they would have fewer mouths to feed. It's the people who end up suffering. Whenever I think back on how short-sighted my father and brother were about Amadonia's future, it gets me so damn frustrated! What we needed wasn't more weapons. It was jobs and food.
I'm so sorry.
I don't want your pity. I know who supports me, my family, Grandpa Herman here, and my big brother Colbert. As well as all my aunts and uncles in the Principality. Those are the people I'm really trying to look out for.
Julius abandoned Roroa because he thought his sister might become a political rival. But she understands the importance of family, and how it's not restricted to who you share blood with. Just one more question. There was another uprising in the Northwest. Julius managed to suppress it. Did you start that one too, Roroa?
There's no way I would ever sink that low! We all suffered greatly because of that insurrection!
Then that particular riot broke out on its own?
That's not true either. What is on the northwest border where the violence originally broke out?
The Lunarian Orthodox Papal State?
When it comes to religion, borders don't mean anything. And there are tons of Lunarian Orthodox up there.
More than likely, the Orthodox Papal State incited the riot in the form of a papal decree to all their adherents. In fact, they were probably planning to send their forces under the pretense of protecting their faithful.
Leave it to the black-robed minister. See, he gets it.
But the Northwest isn't exactly a land of plenty, is it? I don't see why the Orthodox Papal State would capture it.
You don't really get it, do you, Souma? It's not the land that they're after. It's potential believers. All the oppressed citizens complaining about living under the thumb of Amadonian lords, if they're taken into the Orthodox Papal State, watch what happens. No matter how difficult their new life is, there won't be another complaint. They'll claim their hardship as a trial put upon them by God.
That's about as bad as it gets. Roroa, what are your feelings on the Lunarian Orthodox Church?
Well, I have no problem with the religion. What I absolutely loathe are the ones who use it to line their pockets, or other shameless acts in the name of faith.
I could go through life never having to witness that.
You're not being realistic. It's not an issue of if their nation will contact you, but when.
Why is that? It's not like I'm a religious man.
Well, they hate the Star Dragon Mountain Range as much as they hate the Grand Chaos Empire.
I can understand why they would detest the latter. They're a country of intelligent dragons, and steadfast worshippers of the Mother Dragon faith, one of the two greatest religions besides Lunarian Orthodoxy.
When different faiths start bickering, things can get real nasty.
But why would the Grand Chaos Empire be—
Your Majesty, may I speak freely? You've heard of Empress Maria of the Grand Chaos Empire's works, how she's been called a saint. However, in Lunarian Orthodoxy, the certification of a saint is expressly reserved for the Pope. Claiming to be one without permission would be unthinkable to them.
Basically, in the eyes of the Orthodox Papal State, Maria is a woman beyond redemption who's posing as a saint.
But the people are the ones who started calling her that. It's not as if Maria gave that title to herself.
As if that makes any difference to them. If they admitted that saints just spontaneously appeared, it would reflect poorly on their faith.
Well, be that as it may, I don't see why they would be encouraged to reach out to me.
You really don't have any idea what you're worth, do you? You're the ruler of Elfrieden and the annexed Amadonia as well. Not only that, you're the one behind the kingdom's phenomenal rise in power. Could you imagine what would happen if the Pope gave you the title of Saintly King? In no time flat, we could create the Holy Kingdom of Elfrieden together, and it would become a powerful rival even to the Empire.
In order for a church to make its authority unassailable, it grants religious status to those who are in power. Apparently, it happens throughout history, no matter the world.
Well, that's enough talk about the Orthodox Papal State. Let's get back to the marrying me part.
Yeah.
Well, Souma, you can be totally honest. Do you want me or don't you?
I do. After all, the benefits are beyond great. Marrying her would give me the legitimacy to rule Amadonia. She's also appealing as a human resource. Not to mention, she has advanced economic thinking, like coming up with ad revenue. I'll bet she put that network of merchants together on her own, too. And she has a heart. Not only did she raise money for her people, but she had the courage to cross her own brother. What are your thoughts, Licia?
You should already know whatever you deem necessary, I'm fine with.
Huh?
What's that expression about? From what I've seen, this girl is quite competent, and I believe she would be worth welcoming as one of your line of queens. If you will make certain to deal with succession issues, I have no objections. That is my only stipulation. How about the two of you? The more allies we can have, the better. Whatever decision His Majesty makes, I have no intention of speaking out against.
Everyone, thank you.
All I ask is that you make sure to take care of us, too.
You know I will.
I do hate to interrupt this beautiful little love fest, but concerning succession, you don't have to worry. I'm not interested in the throne.
Are you serious?
Yep. Just one thing. I have a teensy favor to ask, darling.
Wait, darling?
You see, I want to be in charge of my own business. Don't get me wrong. I think your policies are visionary and all, darling. But you can't exactly budget for everything all the time, right?
Well, I suppose not. Implementing research and development findings always takes some time.
Told you, darling. Whenever you have a policy that doesn't fit your budget, just let me know. I'll give you exactly what you need.
Huh?
By using my own talents to earn money, I want to see just how much I can transform this kingdom.
I'm encouraged to hear you say that. But are you so certain? To be blunt, if a queen behaves like a merchant, won't all the people look down on her?
And I've given that a great deal of thought. I'll be working behind the scenes. Sebastian, the owner of the Silver Deer, will be its face. And nobody will be the wiser.
The Silver Deer? Oh, I remember.
Oh, quite the opposite. One of them was a very charming, albeit cunning, little devil.
So that charming little devil of a Klein he was talking about was you. I'm not surprised.
Little devil? Just you wait. I'll strangle you for that, Sebastian. Though the charming part does fit me perfectly.
Excuse me. Since I'm about to be in charge of the treasury, would it be alright if I said something?
What's all this, Colbert? You're already the kingdom's finance minister?
If I may be so bold, Princess, with that amount of capital, I prefer you put it in the treasury.
Out of the question!
How come you're both on the same page about this?
It's fine. These will be my own personal assets.
If we have her budget, we can carry out our internal affairs more easily.
But, Your Majesty...
It's a matter of separating duties, isn't it? I'll make money. Darling uses it. Meanwhile, Colbert will rein us in. It works, doesn't it? One more thing, darling. Once we have kids together, let's agree they'll take over the family business. The only answer I still don't know is how many children you want. I say...
Getting a little ahead of yourself, don't you think? Stop invading someone's personal space!
No need to be stingy. Come on. You two have been getting it on like crazy. You've had your fun, now it's my turn.
No, we have not! In fact, we've been so busy, there's been no time for that.
Surely you're joking, sis. Don't tell me you and him haven't.
No, not yet!
And so, the engagement dethronement of Souma Kazuya and Roroa Amadonia was officially announced. Coinciding with this news, the Kingdom of Elfrieden annexed the Principality of Amadonia, creating a new state, the United Kingdom of Elfrieden and Amadonia, otherwise known as the Kingdom of Freedonia.
I'm pleased we can finally meet. I'm Maria Euphoria.
I'm Souma Kazuya. It's an honor to meet you. As you can imagine, I've been hoping to have a nice long talk with you at some point.
I feel the same. Even here in the Empire, your remarkable achievements are known.
Well, I didn't do it on my own. I'm also surrounded by talented people.
Such a modest king. It's been said good retainers follow a good ruler. Now, moving on to business. I wish to get right to the issue, Souma. Tell me what you're thinking concerning the Amadonia matter.
Right. In their eyes, after the Empire went through all the trouble of mediating our negotiations, annexing the country feels like a betrayal.
When John told me how successfully the negotiations went, I was happy to learn how harmonious our countries were and how we had an ally in the East. Then again, perhaps that was a misunderstanding on my part. Yes, I'm aware, but the citizens of Van asked you to reoccupy them after Julius's return. Although, the annexation of Amadonia as a whole is a different matter. As you're aware, the Declaration doesn't recognize changing borders.
Are you absolutely sure? Even though this will be a long story, please allow me to tell it. Once upon a time, two gods, one over the east and the other in the west. The god of the east said the following: "The world was created equally. Mankind, you shall all work the fields together, and shall distribute all of the crops equally amongst yourselves." On the other hand, the god of the west said the following: "The world was created free. Mankind, you shall all work the fields freely, and shall take the crops that you have harvested for yourselves." The god of the east said to the god of the west, "Your way of doing things will make the rich even richer, and those who are poor even poorer. The gap between the haves and the have-nots will only grow wider, until it's an impassable gorge." In return, the god of the west said the following to the god of the east: "If someone is allocated the same share no matter how hard they work, then mankind will lose their motivation, and all of society will grow poorer." The conflict between the two gods grew so large, it expanded to other nations that believed in entirely separate deities, and it wasn't before long, the border countries found themselves in peril. If the nations of the eastern and western gods were to ever start a war, the people living nearby would be the first ones experiencing the harm. And so, together with the other countries, they came up with 3 rules to prevent catastrophe.
And how does this fable conclude?
The god of the East's power continued declining, and an all-out war between the two camps was avoided.
Then everything turned out all right in the end.
For a brief moment, yes, but soon after, a group of people staged an insurrection for their independence from the multi-ethnic state. Unless their independence is acknowledged, the very principle of ethnic self-determination would be violated.
The problem is if their independence is recognized, then it would mean allowing all the borders to be altered.
Therein lies the issue. The nations that made these rules were ultimately paralyzed by them.
So you're saying the fable you told is no different than what's happening with Amadonia?
Yes. The Declaration is clear. It gives the right for ethnic self-determination. Signatory nations have no choice. If the Amadonian people take such actions, they must recognize them.
And yet, we cannot recognize the change of the Amadonian border, as stated in Article 1. What a disaster. So many inconsistencies.
You don't notice them. Not until events make the contradictions evident.
So that is why you did not sign onto the Mankind Declaration when you became king?
Yes. I just couldn't. It's a pitfall for any multi-ethnic nation such as ours.
It's sad to hear this news. We're a multi-ethnic state, the same as Elfrieden.
But the fact is...
I already know. Unfortunately, we cannot afford to abandon the Mankind Declaration just yet. See, even if the path may lead to our destruction, my wish is to stay a symbol of strength, and to continue inspiring the people, giving them a sense of hope. It is infinitely clear that mankind must be united if we are to stand against the Demon Lord's domain. If only for a short while, the Empire will keep the banner aloft, to bind the hearts of Landia's people together.
Now I can see the reason why you're known as a saint. It's a worthy title.
Now that you've explained, I understand your thinking. As head of the Declaration, I will not object to the annexation of Amadonia. That is a promise.
I really appreciate you understanding.
Well, what kind of lady is this Varroa Amadonia?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that question, but if anyone did come out on top of this whole affair, without a doubt it would have to be her.
I guess things didn't go exactly as planned for you either, did they? Moving on to the machinations by the Lunarian Orthodox Papal State.
Based on what Varroa told me, they're offended by the title the people have given you.
That is true. We've received several complaints, we'll call them, objecting to the fact I have been referred to as a saint. That being said, I did not take the title upon myself, so there is little I can do.
It places you in an awkward position. Not like you can demand the people stop calling you a saint. Basically, the Orthodox Papal State will act. They'll probably remain a potential enemy of the Empire. And just like Varroa said, they may approach me to join forces.
When that time comes, do you wish to curry their favor? Do you wish for their influence?
I hope you didn't get the wrong idea. I don't want a thing to do with their authority.
I understand your sentiments. The Orthodox Papal State can be a real headache.
Let me guess. You have many believers there in the Empire.
Yes. In the eyes of their devoted, the Declaration means nothing to them. In fact, there's a chance they may even attempt to exploit the contradiction you've discovered. If mankind is fighting one another, the Demon Lord's domain will win. As long as we're divided, the Orthodox Papal State knows this.
I'm not entirely convinced. The more chaotic the times become, the more powerful religion becomes. That's because it provides an answer to anxiety and discontent, the possibility of salvation. Now that the Demon Lord's domain has appeared, the Orthodox Papal State can feed on the people's desperation and become an incredibly powerful force.
Something wrong?
Sorry about that. I kind of got lost in thought.
Well, from what I have been hearing, that's a somewhat regular occurrence for you.
Trust me, Maria. As the ruler over Fredonia, we will be your allies. As long as the Empire continues striving to unite mankind, we will walk with you. When it comes to our two great nations, I believe that they complement each other and can deal with anything.
Yes, I am hopeful. This pact we've made here will last until the end of time.
Your Majesty, how'd the conference go?
I'd say it was fruitful. You've had the chance to speak with John as well, right?
Yes. We had some very practical discussions, and I'm pleased to report they've also borne fruit.
I bet.
And on that subject, there's a mountain of bilateral negotiation paperwork in your office.
I want the Empire. No, I want Maria to be mankind's hope. The people need a beacon to follow. That way, they won't lose heart even in the darkest times, and have to rely on gods instead. They'll have the strength to get back up on their own.
Just what do you think you're doing? This is too much, Your Majesty!
Hey, good morning. I hope you two slept well.
Don't dare good morning us!
What is Varroa doing in my bed? Someone explain what's going on.
We're the ones who deserve an explanation, mister. Aisha burst into my room in tears, so naturally I asked her what's happening. She said, I wanted to wake his grace, but then I thought of it bad with the princess from Amadonia!
What in the world compelled you to make a move on her before the princess or myself, Majesty? Where's your sense of loyalty?
Take it easy. Look, me and Varroa are both still in our clothes, which means what you think happened probably didn't, right? Make sense?
Why does it sound like you're not completely sure?
Because I can't remember what happened last night. Way to talk him back to me! I was discussing the Amadonia tax system following annexation.
Varroa and Cobra both joined in the conversation, and we must have stayed up late talking.
Hey, Varroa, wake up. It's already morning.
I'm awake. What is it, my darling?
How come you're sleeping in my bed?
Oh yeah, I didn't have the strength to go to my room last night. So I just slept in your bed with you, sweetie.
Watch out, Floor. Would you be so kind as to carry her back to her own quarters, Aisha? Yes, as you wish. What a mess. You realize this only happened because you keep a bed inside your office. I should smash it up. Meanwhile, Marks keeps hounding us, saying we should hurry up and produce some air, you know?
Wait just a little bit longer. I've got other things that need to be addressed first.
What, for example?
Even though it took a while, the kingdom's internal affairs are in order. After annexing Amadonia, we've only grown stronger, and likely don't have to worry about outside threats for now.
I suppose.
There's one other thing. It took me a while, but I've finally been able to convince myself I should be the king.
I'm glad to hear that, but I'd rather you came out and said it resolutely.
There's no longer anything standing in my way. It's time. There's no reason for me to keep holding back, Licia.
I didn't realize you were.
Surely you noticed. So far, all of my policies were chosen to create as little backlash as possible. And even during the war, we made do with what little we had.
Would you mind explaining what that has to do with you keeping Aisha and myself at arm's length?
Well, let's just say you'll find that out soon enough.
Uh-huh, and when exactly is that?
Soon enough means soon enough, alright? We desperately need more personnel.
You said it.
Like Roroa, for example, who's got an extraordinary sense of economics.
Agreed.
But at the end of the day, you can't run the kingdom's finances all by yourself, can you?
That much is true. Despite my strengths, I need employees and personnel who are able to do math.
So they should have some math skills and the ability to read and write as well.
It pains me to report, the literacy rate among citizens is quite low. Those who can do arithmetic, if you exclude the nobility and the knights, often end up becoming merchants.
I couldn't have said it better, Juna.
Well then, why don't we try recruiting from everyday people?
When it comes to appointing skilled workers that are above and beyond, countries that can concentrate money and power have an advantage. For us, it'll be a tougher process, almost like finding a needle in a haystack.
So what do we do instead?
We try to find skilled individuals in neighboring countries as well as the other plan.
What other plan?
A person owning another without recognizing their humanity, regarding them as property to buy and sell. Even the great philosopher Aristotle once defended the practice, calling them living tools. But the system should have never been adopted. Sadly, however, the practice is alive and well on the supercontinent of Landia. Unfortunately, the Kingdom of Freedonia was no exception to the rule. Although some are enslaved as punishment for their crimes, the vast majority had no other choice but to sell themselves due to poverty. If their masters permitted it, they could eventually be freed. In physical law, sexual abuse was strictly forbidden. However, there were still many female slaves who were violated, and many male slaves who ended up being worked to death. Which brings us to an unassuming slave trader by the name of Genjitsu.
As you know, my grandpa has recently died, which means I have inherited all of you. Oh, right. My name is Camu. May I ask the reason why you're all acting so frightened?
You don't know, Shopmaster? I'll explain.
You're a Mystic Tanuki, right?
A raccoon person. If you're curious, the difference is with the tail. Mystic Tanukis don't have any stripes, while we raccoon people have an elegant pattern.
And what's your name?
Please forgive my rudeness. Call me Sandria, the slave.
How about San for short?
Oh, of course.
Pleased to meet you.
The pleasure's mine, Shopmaster.
So, San, can you tell me why everybody here looks so gloomy?
Because we're mourning the passing of your grandfather.
You're grieving his death, even though you were his slaves?
Yes, I'll admit, we are feeling some sadness. How to put this? Compared to other slave traders, your grandfather treated us with dignity.
Is that right?
He made sure we had clothes to wear, provided enough food for us, which is quite the rarity when it comes to traders.
I never knew. It's obvious I know nothing at all about the slave trade.
That's quite all right. I assumed you didn't. Before your grandfather died, he said that you would probably be unable to take over his business, that this kind of work would be too much for his gentle grandson.
Grandpa saw right through me. I don't want any of his remaining slaves. I would rather sell them off and begin some other business. Have a fresh start. At least, I thought I did.
Something wrong?
No, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about my grandpa.
If you don't end up taking over the business, we'll just be sold off to some other slave trader. But no single one will take a group with this many slaves, which means we're going to be split up. So that's why your grandfather's passing's a reason for us to mourn. Shopmaster?
What is this? Huh?
It was presumptuous for a slave like me to offer my opinion. I would like you to punish me for it now.
That's insane!
It's all right. That whip is specially made, so it doesn't leave any marks on the body. It won't diminish my value when you sell me.
That is not what I'm talking about, San! If you knew you were going to be punished, why do you even give me your opinion?
Because I was hoping once you close up shop, you might show us the slightest bit of mercy. That somehow you might find owners who will let families stay together.
So does that mean you have family members here as well? You really care that much about the others? I understand your situation clearly now. That being said, I don't intend to keep running this business.
Money and power, they go hand in hand. In the pursuit of wealth, it's a demand. From the highest echelons to the sinking sand. Money and power, it's a command. In the corridors of power, where deals are made. Every handshake, every promise laid. From the top of the ladder to the stockade. In the pursuit of power and money, the price is paid. Money talks and power calls. In the halls of justice where the gavel falls. From the penthouse suites to the prison walls. In the pursuit of power and money, the curtain calls. Money and power, they go hand in hand. In the pursuit of wealth, it's a demand. From the highest echelons to the sinking sand. Money and power, it's a command. But in the midst of it all, let's not forget that true wealth lies in the hearts we beget. From the love we share to the dreams we set. In the pursuit of happiness, let's not forget. In the midst of it all, let's not forget that true wealth lies in the hearts we beget. From the love we share to the dreams we set. In the pursuit of happiness, let's not forget. So let's redefine power, let's redefine wealth. In the bars we forge, in the hearts we health. With kindness as our currency and abundant stealth. Let's reclaim the power and money in ourselves.
I'm glad you're back.
Can sprout up wherever you go.
Oh, thank you, San.
How are the sales? Going well?
Less than ideal, I'm afraid. By that, I mean we don't have any buyers. At least not yet. I wonder what's stopping them.
I thought there were some customers that came in earlier. Why didn't they buy anybody?
Not to brag, but when it comes to people, I have a pretty good eye for sizing them up. Every customer so far, they've only wanted slaves as disposable tools and nothing more. Even buyers that look like gentlemen.
Is that right?
I promised everyone that I would find them owners that were trustworthy. Which means I have to be kind of selective.
You know, if you keep talking like that, you'll fall into debt and end up a slave as well.
Well, we certainly can't afford that to happen. My grandfather used to have a saying. Someday the calm will end, and then the tide will suddenly turn. It means you have to wait for the right opportunity, and never give up. So when the chance comes, you grab hold so you don't miss out.
Master Ginger, it's the strangest thing. Despite being a slave, whenever I'm with you, I'm almost hopeful about the future.
Excuse me! I heard that you had slaves here who could read, write, and do math. Is this true?
I need them immediately. Name your price. I'll gladly pay it.
I need some as well. Whatever you require, just tell me. Money's no object.
How can I help you? Oh,
My dear sir, the fact is I'm in desperate need of slaves who can read, write, and do math.
You've come to the right place for that. Every one of my slaves has learned those skills.
Every last one? Are you serious? Oh, thank heavens, it's a miracle!
Outstanding! Let's discuss the terms of purchase right away.
It's not as if you're the only one here worried about their territory.
I'll have to ask you all to settle down. Can somebody please tell me what's going on here? Now I understand. Seemingly out of nowhere, His Majesty made a royal decree in regard to evaluating promotion or demotion of knights and noblemen. The process will now begin including one's ability to govern their own territory. At least the king wished you all good luck.
As for my lord, he believed there was one path to getting ahead in life, being a nobleman and taking part in state affairs.
Knights are distinguished by heroics on the battlefield. Now the ability to rule over their own domain is in question.
In order for one to govern, office skills are essential. I must have someone who's able to read, write, and perform mathematical equations.
Well, I understand your plight. I have parents here with children and a pair of sisters to consider. So I would require you to take on members of the same family as part of our arrangement.
You're saying that if we agree to take families together, we have priority when it comes to securing 2 or more slaves?
In that case, I'm willing to take as many as I can.
Oh, I already told you I get fast pick.
Please, everyone, calm down. All this shouting won't help the situation.
This place has become very quiet rather quickly.
Indeed, it has. The last 2, Anzu and Shiho, are with Pilteri Saracen.
I'm extremely happy for both of them. He promised to set them free, and he's taking them as his wives, too. It's a little hard to believe.
That makes 2 of us.
So here we are. I'm the only slave still in your care.
To be honest, San, it's not like I made a fortune, but it was still a tidy sum.
Well, you spent your own money on us, making sure to provide an education we wouldn't otherwise receive.
I'm not really cut out to be a slave trader. Although now, I can finally start to think about a new business.
But if you're going to change your business, then what would that mean for me?
Why don't you sit down? You must be pretty tired from having to stand on your feet all day.
It's out of the question. I'm only a slave. I would never dare sit at the same table as my master.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Then what would you say if I ordered you?
Oh, if you insist, then very well. Huh?
Why don't we take a little break?
I'm the one who ought to be doing that sort of chore.
Don't worry. Call this a small token of my thanks.
Your thanks?
Yeah. I owe you so much. If you hadn't had the courage to speak up the very first time we met, I'm sorry to say, I might have let the other slave traders buy everyone. In terms of running a business, it meant turning several potential buyers away, but I'm glad I taught everyone the skills that made them more valuable. Thanks to His Majesty's order, it just happened to work out nicely. But it all started with you, and the risk you took to keep the families together.
Perhaps. But we're the ones who should be thanking you for everything that you've done. You say it was to give us all more value. However, you went above and beyond, Master Ginger. Not only were you good enough to have provided us with brand new clothing, but somehow you were able to make this place feel like our home. You did all that at your own expense. In fact, you even dipped into your grandfather's inheritance. Most would never show slaves that much kindness. But you did, and I'm grateful for that.
Listen. Huh? Welcome, sir. What a strange hat. Is he from the Nine-Headed Dragon Union?
I have a request. I'm very interested in purchasing this particular slave.
Huh? Sorry. You might have missed the sign outside, but we are closed for the day.
Oh, do forgive me. See, I'm so taken by this raccoon person slave. I must buy her before someone else does. Now then, whatever is necessary to acquire her, just name it. Naturally, I'm prepared to pay you more than her market value. Afterwards, I will then release her of her status as a slave.
Actually, she...
Very well. And what price would you be willing to pay for me, sir?
Wait a minute.
As you can see, my master takes care of his slaves. They have all been purchased. Except me, and as a final act of service, I request you buy me at a higher asking rate. Master Ginger, I only ask you use the money to fund your new business venture.
There's no way I'm letting him buy you, son.
As you wish. Here's 10 large gold coins, and also 50 standard gold coins as well. Will this be a sufficient price?
That is an extraordinary amount. I agree to the offer.
Glad to hear it.
That's not something for you to decide. I'm sorry, she's not for sale. I don't care how much money you have. She'll serve as an employee when I start my new business. Equal to me, and not a slave to be ordered around.
But Master Ginger...
You'll have to forgive me, son. Yes, there is a possibility that you would live a far better life if you allowed this man to take you away from here. And he obviously comes from considerable wealth as well. The thing is, out of my own self-interest, I don't want to let you go.
I want to stay. I beg you, keep me here. Allow me to remain by your side forever.
Son, of course I will.
Isn't that something?
You see? Just like Sebastian said. Quite the fascinating slave trader, huh?
That's an understatement.
I'm sorry, but what's this?
My deepest apologies. It was only supposed to be a test.
I'm confused.
This world is full of people. Yet someone like you is hiding right under our noses. We can't stop searching for talented personnel.
Wait, Your Majesty?
No formalities. We three here are incognito. I've always wanted to say incognito, but never got the chance before.
Your Highness? Do you mind if I ask why you sought me out?
Word of your reputation has spread. About how you decided to teach your slaves, so they would end up in places that would treat them with dignity and respect. Traders around the kingdom are following your example now, by educating their slaves as well.
Oh, they are?
Judging from your reaction, you didn't realize your glorious accomplishment. You ought to be quite proud.
I wouldn't say glorious.
As long as I've been king, I've been thinking of ways to abolish the system of slavery here. The thing is, if I just made reforms by royal decree, it would have only resulted in societal upheaval. One wrong move and we'd have a civil war.
That's a bit extreme, don't you think?
Sadly, no. In the world I come from, that's exactly what happened. As a solution, slavery will exist by name alone.
Wait, you don't mean... Isn't this the subject you were discussing earlier with Princess Licia, yes?
Yes, it was, Aisha. Education. You protected the socially vulnerable and improved their quality of life, guaranteeing them employment. And as a result, the slaves will no longer be enslaved. If that's not glorious, I don't know what is.
I mean, I couldn't be happier, but I was just doing everything in my power to protect the people who were left in my care, Your Highness.
You're exactly the kind of person that I've been searching for. Starting from this point, I'll be socializing the slave trade in this country.
Your Majesty, what's socializing?
Slave traders will become public servants, and we'll have a screening process. That's phase 1. I'm also currently in the stages of constructing a job training center, so they can find employment and not be used as disposable labor. While I'd like to abolish the system altogether, at the present moment, this will have to do.
So then you're saying...
You're a bit of a slow learner, aren't you? The kingdom's adopting the program you invented.
This new training center will need a director, and I'd like to appoint you.
Me? Are you sure, Majesty?
I can't think of anyone more deserving of the position. This money is your reserve fund. How would you like to take the gold and start your new business?
Someday the calm will end. And then the tide will suddenly turn.
It's a deal, Majesty. I want to do this.
How did we end up in this position?
What choice did we have? Roroa's busy turning slave traders into civil servants. Believe me, she's not happy. She's got her hands full, issuing licenses and dealing with complaints. Juna doesn't have free time with her show, and Aisha wanted to concentrate on her martial arts training, which
That's not what I'm talking about. I meant, how did all of us end up on this crazy road trip?
That's just how things worked out. When I said I was going into town, Serena insisted that I take Owen and Carlo along with us to serve as our escorts. And you had a pretty genius idea. Even as a ragtag group of adventurers, we do kind of look like we belong together, right?
If you wanted to blend in more, you could have worn that student uniform like you did last time. And given the way Owen's dressed, we could have said he was your instructor. You are actually getting trained by him in martial arts.
You're one to talk. If you had dressed more like an adventurer, we'd look like a party, except for...
What did I miss? Why are you both looking at me? Carla would have stood out regardless.
That's true.
Aren't you being a little cruel?
I mean, you're dressed as a maid.
It's not as if I picked this outfit because I thought it would be a good costume. If it wasn't for Serena's orders, I'd be wearing my armor instead.
Carla, you're our friend, and you always will be. So when Serena's not around, don't hesitate to speak freely.
Good call.
You want me to speak freely, but I can't decide how I should dress?
Sire, I mean, Kazuya, are you positive you want to continue going this way?
Yes, I am.
But if we head down there...
Oh, now I understand. You're right. Eventually we'll all arrive in the old slums.
And if I may speak frankly, that's not the sort of place I'd ever wish for you or Licia to see in person. It's a den of crime, home to a bunch of lowlifes.
In the past, but not anymore.
How is it different now?
It'd be quicker if you saw for yourself.
Oh.
What do you think?
Well, it's a lot different from what I pictured, so I guess you could say I'm surprised.
Meaning what?
Meaning it's supposed to be dark, gloomy, musty, and dangerous in this part of town. At least as far as what I've been told.
Hard to believe these are the Kingdom's slums.
Nope. You're thinking of the old slums. Way different from how you remember, huh? We did our best to get everything in shape here by tackling the sanitation problem.
The sanitation problem? That was part of your big plan to improve the city, right? Was reworking all these buildings a part of that plan as well?
We rebuilt the old structures. Now they allow air and sunlight in. While we were at it, we arrested criminals and stopped the drug trade. So we aired the place out in that sense as well.
Carla, did someone just casually mention he completely removed crime from the slums?
He did.
Afterwards, we had the residents move into all the new houses we had built. They're small and cramped, but they're free. Additionally, by employing the residents to help keep the city clean, they get paid and maintain sanitation at once.
You've been keeping busy. Maybe too busy?
It is hard work, but a lot of fun too. Getting to rebuild the city and fashion the country how I want it. And if as a result, the people smile more, where's the harm?
Agreed. But if there's anything I can do, you be sure to let me know.
Of course. I'm relying on you.
I've gotta say, this is a far cry from the slums that used to be here.
Wherever there's grime, decay follows. And then, pathogens are more likely to take hold.
What are pathogens?
It sounds odd, but there are an infinite number of these tiny creatures. Even though they're invisible to the naked eye, they live in the air, soil, water, everywhere else. I just told you can't see them, but they're powerful enough to make food spoil and cause illness. We can only view their influence.
Wait, now I get it. So that's the reason you recommend that we all gargle, and we wash our hands.
You got it.
I'm a little confused. So pathogens, they cause diseases?
I believe whatever Kazuya tells us about them.
It's not a question of whether or not they accept my word. Since they solve all their problems with magic, what can I do? In this world, medicine and hygiene haven't made significant advances. Probably because light elemental magic is such a widespread presence. When it's been cast, it gives you the ability to heal and can treat even the most serious wounds. But it does have certain drawbacks. Like not being able to treat elderly patients' infections and injuries, since their natural ability to heal is diminished. Treatments for diseases are available, but the market is overrun with drugs made from dubious ingredients and questionable folk remedies. When I started tackling the sanitation problem, I knew I had to do something about the health crisis as well. First things first, I need to make them realize pathogens do exist.
The question is, how do you get people to acknowledge something they can't see?
Some already can, or more specifically, a certain race of people in the world. Those people know that germs exist. Thanks to an extra eye unique to them, it lends them a kind of enhanced perception and the ability to see things other people cannot.
An extra eye? It sounds like you're talking about the three-eyed race.
I'm surprised they agreed to work with you. I've heard their kind shuns contact with anyone from outside their clan.
Their isolation seems self-imposed, most likely because of how they view the world. Remember, they can tell whether something is sanitary or not. Imagine, if you saw germs everywhere, you'd probably avoid others too.
They must think we're disease-ridden freaks!
Well, that's certainly one way of putting it. Long story short, the three-eyed race knew pathogens were real, as well as the fact that they cause ailments light magic can't treat. So, using their vision and their insight, they developed their own brand of medicine. Their research into diseases is advanced. Compared to the rest of the world, they are centuries ahead in medicine.
Wait, could that be the reason the three-eyed race has such a long lifespan?
How old are we talking about?
You know how humans and beastmen only live to be around 60 years of age? Well, the three-eyed race's average lifespan is well over 80 years.
Licia is correct. Introducing hygiene has extended their lifespan.
It's like a shield for health!
Right. I've set up talks to ask for their help, and commissioned them to make a device. Once it's complete, this object will allow the other races the ability to see germs and microorganisms for themselves.
Amazing!
That's our Kazuya, all right.
Well, we had them back in my world, called them microscopes.
A microscope?
Yeah. By putting lenses together, it can make small objects appear larger. Because of these, I was able to prove to everyone what the three-eyed race said was true. And that's not all. Thanks to their sight, they have already made antibiotics.
Another strange new word.
I'll skip the explanation since it's complicated, but they're a substance that inhibits the growth of pathogens.
So it's medicine?
Yeah. Turns out they just call it medicine too, but that gets confusing. So I decree that it shall be known as three-iodine, because it's a type of medicine made by the three-eyed race.
Three-iodine? What do you mean it's able to inhibit the growth of germs, as in the spread too?
It's a wonder drug against diseases, but that's only putting it mildly. It can be used to prevent epidemics as well as keeping open wounds from festering.
You said stop epidemics? It's really powerful enough to do that?
Since the three-eyed race can see these germs, they are also able to help find a way of stopping them.
Well, could it be mass-produced?
Alicia?
This is important. This could even help us to stop epidemics. There's no mage who can do that.
There's not much available yet, but we are ramping up our production.
Perfection.
Good news is, the three-eyed race is now cooperating with us. And additionally, we won't hold anything back when it comes to the medical research. Our biggest struggle so far is the small number of gel medics available, which three-iodine production is dependent on.
Gel medics?
Kind of a subspecies of gelins, which can survive in unsanitary environments. Before getting refined, three-iodine is extracted from it. Thanks to Tomoe's help, there has been an increase in gel medics.
Hold on. Aren't gelins more plant-like than animal-like? But Tomoe can talk to them?
Apparently, communication is a little bit murky. Still, she's had some luck. In fact, she's discovered a little about their ideal living conditions.
Feels like her little sister's the one teaching us.
Isn't that the truth?
Dear alive, the unsanitary! There you are. And some more over here.
This woman is clearly deranged, Kazuya.
What's that weirdo doing exactly?
This is just normal behavior for her.
You know this psycho?
Dr. Hilda Norg. As you can see, she's three-eyed. On top of that, she has a high degree of medical knowledge and skills, even by the standards of her people.
She's the doctor?
Same old Hilda, I see.
And who are you?
Oh, right, sorry.
Oh, well, if it isn't His Majesty, I thought you were just some sort of vagabond.
Introductions are in order. These two are.
Oh, I know. That's the princess, and that's the former Air Force General's daughter. And a rather embarrassing outfit, I might add.
Hey, are you familiar with my friend Owen?
I would rather be boiled alive than know a man of his filthy stature. Ugh.
Just who you call filthy, you elite snob?
Try and make a move, you muscle-bound freak.
So tell me something, Hilda. What is it that has brought you out here today?
Leave the populace unsupervised for long. Pretty soon they get filthy again. I come by regularly to offer health tips and sanitize.
That reminds me. Where's your partner? Is he not with you?
He's not my partner. Is that quite clear? Anyway, Brad is wandering around somewhere. He's always saying how he'd rather treat a stray dog than filthy overgrown pigs. Some sort of nonsense.
Sounds like typical Brad.
King, would you mind talking to him for me? He's always making me lecture his junior students. Who's this Brad?
Full name's Brad Jocker. And he's a doctor, too. Also, healthcare reformist. Just like Hilda.
So is he three-eyed as well?
He's not. A young human, actually. And he is decent at his trade, too. But his personality could use a little work.
Pardon? Are you even listening to me? Your Majesty?
Please forgive me, Hilda. I will speak with him.
Now then, what brings you this far from the castle?
Oh, just checking on the job training center. I put Ginger in charge. I wanted to see how it's going.
Goodbye, Miss Sun.
See you tomorrow. Have a nice day, everyone. Be good. Thank you for coming by the school to see us, Your Majesty.
Hey, son. Where's Ginger?
Master Ginger, King Souma is here for you.
Your Majesty!
I
I told you, no need to be so formal.
Oh, the princess is here? Hi, my name is Ginger Kamu, and it's such an amazing honor to meet you, Highness.
You're sure stuttering more than usual today.
Behind me, that's Carla Vargas. This man is Owen Javana, and that's...
I know Dr. Hilda. She's always stopping by to give free medical checkups to the school children.
Yeah, only because I can't stand seeing their grubby little hands. I'm going to spray over there. Give me a holler when you're finished.
I believe someone to play in that direction there.
Yeah, I got it.
I hear you've been teaching children to read, write, and do math here.
Not just the little ones. Adults are learning as well.
Adults, too?
There are many in the kingdom who have never had an education. Days we teach kids, and the adults at night after they finished all their labors.
Is that right? I really have no idea.
We plan to eventually offer other lessons as well. Isn't that right, sire?
Yeah. There's tons, including training for civil engineers as well as adventurers who explore dungeons, and lessons on medical techniques from Hilda.
That's quite the wide variety of subjects.
The academic research in this world is pretty narrow, and mostly focuses on magic and monsters, right? Thing is, hidden within studies that are outside the mainstream, there's tremendous potential waiting to be found. When you master a field, no matter the subject, you're the best. By becoming #1, you also become the only one.
And those only ones are who you want to nurture, right?
Yes, but first off, we need to do whatever it takes to raise the education of the entire kingdom. What's the center's status? Sounds like things are well.
Oh, they are. Attendance is way up. And the school lunch program Your Majesty suggested has been very popular.
I've never heard of a school lunch program before.
It's a system I introduced from my homeland. If you're a student going here, and under 12, then you're able to eat lunch for free.
Wow.
How wonderful! That will be a huge help for poor households. If they keep studying hard, there's a good chance in the future they'll be able to escape from a life of poverty.
I'm afraid to say our adult attendance, on the other hand, is rather poor. Basically, their reasoning is, why should they learn mathematics or be literate if they've lived this long without any need?
It's my job to help them see why, so leave that part to me. I'll come up with something.
Thank you, sire.
Alrighty then. Now that we've confirmed all is coming along nicely here, on to the next stop.
Where are we headed?
Huh? Didn't I mention the reason for our trip?
No, you didn't.
Going outside.
But we're already outside.
Outside castle walls.
But the refugee camps are there, and they're even more dangerous than the slums.
I think it's about time I saw them.
If you're going outside, you'll be needing me.
So how long have you been standing there?
I finished up disinfecting the urchins, and Brad disappeared somewhere. That deadbeat is really gonna get it for making me cover his lectures again.
For sure this place is a dump. But oddly enough, there's a powerful look in their eyes.
They came a long way from the north, with nothing but the will to live. It's safe to assume that those who are here are far stronger than we could ever imagine. They've experienced wars, natural disasters, and other misfortunes. Yet somehow they still stand on their own 2 feet. Refugees have a unique brand of strength. Then again, that strength can also be a hazard. While their sense of unity grows, their sense of individuality also becomes diluted.
By the way, Kazuya, you said you had supported them. What did we do for them?
Really wasn't all that much. We sent food, firewood, and supplies they desperately needed. Also, I had the Adventurers Guild make security around the camp a quest.
I get supplying them with essentials, but why do they need our protection?
When foreign nationals are victims of crimes or the perpetrators, it often leads to international incidents. But it's different for these people who have no countries. As long as it doesn't become a global event, people are often content looking the other way.
Those sort of folk need to be punished.
No. There's also the possibility that our own people could harm the refugees.
What's all the commotion?
Look, those thugs just showed up out of nowhere and tried kidnapping all the children.
They tried what?
They're attacking anyone who jumps in to stop them. Those adventurers heard about what was happening and stepped in to protect our camp.
Carla, Owen, go and help the adventurers fast.
As you command.
Let's show this scum what valor looks like. Come on!
Hilda, I want you to go and help the priest over there.
Oh well, what other choice is there?
And I'll stay and protect you, Kazuya.
A hero who can't defend himself. That's sad.
Well, that's why I'm here. You can fight if needed, right?
Owen has been putting me through all the paces, but he says I'm only slightly better than a fresh recruit.
Well, that doesn't sound too reassuring. No matter what happens, try and stay behind me.
I guess that's all I can do.
Duck, you know!
I can make it through his strike. Yuno can get back to her feet. I just have to remember the basic moves that Owen drilled into me. I did it! I actually did it! A successful parry!
Don't just stand there! Tell me, what were you thinking? You can't be running off like that!
I'm sorry.
But my heart was going to stop. I was so worried. If anything were to happen to you, do you know what would happen? I would...
Oh, my pal. We've never met, but you called me Yuno. So you want to go ahead and tell me how you know my name?
Well, you see...
Yeah, Kazuya. You seem to be very chummy with her.
How do I explain my way out of this mess? Not like I could just say the truth.
Yeah, I'm the king, and I've been going on adventures with you as Master Mascot. Hey, are you listening to me?
Kazuya?
That was incredibly reckless of you, Master.
I saw you in action. Those sword skills I taught you sure came in handy, didn't they?
Ah, both of you, nice work.
There's no way you're changing the subject.
Hey, I'm still waiting for an explanation.
So, got any idea who these two punks are anyway?
Well, look, we were just hired by some slave trader.
Slave trader?
Watch the hour. Because the king of this country is gone and made the slave traders into civil servants. Thing is, you need to get qualified, and our employer ended up failing the review process.
So, why are you attacking refugees?
To get out of this country. Women and children fetch a healthy price.
What'd you say?
Easy mercy! We were told the refugees were easy picking since the kingdom wouldn't go out of their way to give them protection.
And who told you that?
We were just hired to do a job, man.
Carla, would you go and tell Hakia what happened out here? Sure, he'll take swift measures to deal with this.
Yes, as you command.
Well, I finished treating the injured. Don't know what the plan is. We've managed to draw quite a crowd here.
Crap, we're supposed to be incognito!
I told you, don't raise your voice!
Ladies and gentlemen, your children were saved from being kidnapped, all thanks to these brave adventurers!
Thank you so much!
Now's our chance to escape.
And very quietly.
Hey, just wait the hell up. We're not done.
So, King, where to now?
To see the refugees' chief.
Why are we meeting with him?
There's a problem here, and we're solving it.
Refugees, one of the most difficult challenges facing modern society. Persecution, strife, and violence. These are just a few reasons why people are forced to flee the country where they were born. In order to survive, they escape to other nations. Some by foot, others by boat. Here in the Kingdom of Freedonia, the problem is very much the same. There is a refugee camp located just outside the walls of the royal capital of Parnum. Within it are just under 1,000 people. Humans, elves, beastmen, dwarves. Most have one thing in common. They were driven from their lands by the expansion of the Demon Lord's domain. However, compared to other refugees, those in the Kingdom of Freedonia were more fortunate. Elsewhere, circumstances for refugees are considerably harsher. There are nations bordering the Demon Lord's domain, where refugees are forcibly conscripted and sent to fight on the front lines. Or under the guise of protecting them, they were employed as cheap labor and exploited to the point of slavery. Now that domestic affairs have become settled to some degree, Souma had finally resolved to deal with this matter head-on.
That's a rather large tent.
Not so much a tent, more like a Mongolian gur. It's not important. The chief's expecting us. Let's meet him.
Your Majesty, Great King of Freedonia, thank you for visiting with us.
First off, let's skip this whole Great King business.
Yes, as you wish. My name is Shirokoma. I have been put in charge of this refugee camp. Sitting here at my side is my sister.
My name's Komine. It is a pleasure, sire.
And my name is Souma Kazuya, Freedonia's king.
I understand you helped rescue some members of the settlement earlier. I would like to offer my sincerest thanks.
It was the adventurers working security that saved them. You can thank them if you wish. I came here for another reason, regarding a matter that needs resolving. I'm here to help you make an informed choice. My messengers told you your options, and now you must decide which.
You can't!
Stop, Komine.
I will speak my mind.
Our words will determine the course of action for everyone residing here in this camp. We must remain calm.
I'll hold my tongue then.
Soma, I think it's time you explain to me what's going on.
You're right. The refugee crisis has gone on far too long. We need to find a resolution. So I asked them to make a decision.
Decide what?
Become subjects of the kingdom and forsake their home, or tear down camp and leave this country. I know what you want. Return to your homelands, which are now the Demon Lord's domain, where you'll resume your old way of life. But presently, unless you drive away the monsters, that's impossible. Nor can anyone tell when that will be possible. Just what do you intend on doing in the meantime? Remain here in a strange foreign land, hoping that you'll get the chance to return? Living in limbo until then? We can't have you staying here unofficially. Under any other circumstances, hunting and gathering without permission would be illegal. If these actions are allowed to continue, I guarantee you'll incur the wrath of the kingdom's people.
But we have all been tolerant of them for this long, and even supported them.
Yes, that's my point. The kingdom has several problems to deal with, so I chose to stay on the same course as Albert. But it's an issue I can no longer simply leave unaddressed.
Well, isn't that a bit...
This land of ours, think of it like a giant person. It is so easy for them to love those who love them in return. But when a group doesn't reciprocate, it's more difficult. If you insist on remaining committed to your homelands, and feel no sense of belonging to the kingdom, well then, I'm afraid I will have to expel you.
All that we want is to return to where we were forced out.
And I have no objection if that sentiment remains within your hearts. If the situation changes, and you are able to return back, then you are free to venture home. But as long as you reside in this country, I need you to feel like you belong here.
You have no idea what we've gone through.
Don't come on.
No, brother, enough. I will speak. You are the king over this nation, and yet you still have your own country. Sire, you don't know what it's like to be torn from your home and have to...
Yes, I do. You must have heard how I was summoned to this world from my own without any say. I have no way of going back.
Soma...
Still, I had Licia and the others, those by my side supporting me. People who genuinely care about me. I didn't want to let them down, so I worked on end. And then eventually, I realized I felt as though I belonged here too. If I'd lost this country, I probably would have grieved as much as I did losing my original home. The fact is, you might not be accepted right away. But you can't move forward if you refuse to take action.
Just how accepting will you be? The same as the Grand Chaos Empire?
Princess, I'm confused. The Empire offers refugees land, the undeveloped parcels within their country. And if they settle it, then it can be recognized as their provisional residence.
Oh yeah? And what's the catch?
If they can be self-sufficient, they aren't a drain on the Empire's coffers. And if they are able to return to the Northern Territory later, the land that they had just cleared will remain behind. Either way, the Empire loses nothing. Eurocoma, I'm sorry, but we can't implement the same policy as their country.
Why not?
Because it's dangerous.
Dangerous? How so?
You clear the land, pour your blood, sweat, and tears into it. If so, you'd consider it as your own, correct? For the generation that still wants to go home, that's fine. But what about the next one after? Ask yourself this. When they're born on that land, without any context of their parents' country, will they view it as a temporary lease, or something more important?
I'm curious. Are you suggesting that the Empire's policy is just wrong?
I'm not. We just differ in our thinking. Maria chose that policy because she believed it was the best, whereas I fear for the worst, and won't take the same approach. And that's all there is.
If that's your stance, I'd like to know just what your grand solution could be. Giving up returning to our homeland and become subjects of the kingdom without any land for clearing? Or will we be thrown out? Just what exactly is it that you expect us to do?
Master Owen?
Sire?
Show them.
As you command, my lord.
This is Veneti Nova, a Gulf Coast city we're currently building. The residential and commercial districts are constructed, and we've established a trading port at this point. Later, we'll add even more facilities, and develop it into a city that will be on the cutting edge of culture and life. As for the refugees, I'm thinking of letting them take up residence here. Become a resident of this country, and you will have a home. There are plenty of jobs, too. Don't believe me? Just ask the Mystic Wolves. They run distilleries in Parnham. I guarantee if you become citizens, as long as you work hard, you will never go hungry or cold.
Wow, that sounds like such a wonderful offer.
What are you talking about, brother? He is pretty much calling us strays and throwing us scraps to try and make us roll over.
Komine, what His Majesty is offering us is an actual chance to establish roots here.
So that's it then? Are we just gonna give up on ever going back home? Don't tell me that doesn't bother you at all.
I can't blame you for having differing opinions. After looking at my own proposal, on one hand, it's enticing. While on the other hand, I can see how it might seem quite cruel. But this is the most I can do for you right now. Everything else comes down to your decision.
There are those residing here who will insist on returning to their homelands no matter what.
Just like Komine, right?
Oh no. My sister, she is open-minded. What she said before was for all the others. She wishes to represent all voices on the settlement, despite her own views.
Big brother?
It's true, is it not? When you had said it was terrible, you were just speaking on behalf of those who think that, because you feel the pain of others. Your Majesty, we thank you. But I cannot make this decision on my own. I would like to gather the members of the settlement before giving you an answer.
I am here to help you reach a decision, as I've mentioned.
Yes, I understand. If possible, I'd like to convince as many people in the settlement as I can to accept the hand Your Majesty has generously extended, even if it does mean dividing all the refugees.
Dividing the refugees? In other words, accept the offer or be ostracized even more than you already are. There isn't much time. You can spend time recruiting residents, but the seasons don't wait for anyone.
You speak the truth. Winter is coming. If we don't prepare, our people could freeze. But please, give us some more time.
Good. I heard that you were in here, Hilda.
Brad, you creep. Thanks for running off and leaving me to handle all your lectures. Hey, what do you think you're doing?
You can air your grievances a bit later. I need your help now. It's urgent.
Who's the patient?
There's a woman. Her water has just broken. It's the baby's position. It's facing the wrong way, with its head at the top of the uterus.
That's a problem. Transverse presentations are very rare.
The midwife is at a total loss as well.
Typically in these scenarios, only the mother or the child can survive. It'll be hard to save both of them.
All right. We'll just have to cut her open then.
Can you do it? I understand the survival rate for mothers is less than 20%.
The reason for it being so low should be fairly obvious.
Oh? Why's that?
The ones who operated weren't as smart as us.
You make the incredible sound simple.
It's the truth. Or more precisely, because they lacked my skills, as well as your three-eye knowledge of pathogens. I can bring the survival rate up to 80% alone. Hilda, if you're at my side keeping things sanitary, together we can bring the survival rate up to nearly 100%.
Damn it, how can I argue with that? Well, King, you heard what the man said. We've got an emergency. I hate asking, but I need you and your people's help right now.
Of course, you'll have it.
I gave Hakuya my report of the incident, Master Souma.
Oh, good. You arrived just in time to help us, Dragonoot girl.
Wait, help you with what?
Go to the medical lab in the capital and bring me my instruments and drugs right here, on the double.
This is an emergency. Do exactly as she tells you.
The king just gave you an order. Now listen, ask for Hilda's black bag. The researchers will know what you're talking about.
Yes, I understand.
You, refugee leader. I would like to borrow your tent. For this procedure, we need the most sanitary venue possible.
I have no objections if it will help you.
We're also going to need blood transfusions, so gather up as many refugees as you can.
Understood.
As for you, King.
Yeah?
You know all about hygiene where you come from, correct? Explain the concept to the leader here and clean up this area as much as you can.
You got it. Well, let's start. Ready?
Right.
Lead the way, Majesty.
Wait, please allow me to help out too.
All right, tell me everything about the patient's symptoms, Brad.
We need lots of boiled water. Once over 100 degrees. It'll kill most pathogens. In order for this to succeed, Her tools need to be sterilized.
I've heard about opening a pregnant woman's belly, but is it safe?
Oh yes, without a doubt. Cesarean sections are common for difficult deliveries. At least where I come from.
Your old home always sounds like an amazing place, Souma.
I'm sure those two can pull off a similar procedure. They're both pros. But then, we never had access to light magic in my world. So the comparison isn't so simple.
Be that as it may, I can't say I'm happy about being stuck outside while Carla's helping them.
Jirokoma, Hilda and Brad are skilled doctors. I'm sure both mother and baby will survive. So I want to bring this up.
Yes, what is it?
When the child's born, it'll be in the kingdom, not in their forefathers' land. They will grow up here and see it as a home. Forcing newborns to live as exiles from a lost nation is...
There's no need to say any more.
Big brother.
Listen, I have decided what needs to be done.
The baby is...
It's a healthy boy.
Oh, hope for the future has been brought into this world.
How is the mother?
The operation was a success. Both mother and child are fine.
Carla! Come on, you have to keep it together. Please stand up.
Great Sky Son who watches over us, for giving hope to this settlement, we humbly offer our gratitude. Spirits of our ancestors who soar as elk in heaven, please watch over this child, now and forevermore.
I'm so glad.
There aren't enough words to thank you, Your Majesty.
Any you have should be directed to them.
I'm stepping down as leader of the settlement. Comine will take over.
Huh?
Are you saying that you're going to leave us, brother?
Good question. What's your plan?
The people of this settlement, I know they are tired of living like nomads. I'm certain, if they can make this country their home, it would be a wonderful chance for them. And yet, I know there are hardliners who will never give up on going home. That's why I will be heading back north along with them. I'll be keeping up the fight for our nation, on the front lines, biding time until we can take back our land.
Hold on a second. You can't just run off when the settlement needs you. Don't forget, I said His Majesty's proposal was cruel, didn't I? I'm going north with you.
You can't. You declined it out of consideration for the others, despite what you actually felt. That heart of yours, it makes you a better mediator than me. There's a part of me, some piece that can never give up the thought of going home. When I was made chief, I pushed my feelings aside and had to keep them buried in my heart until now.
Big brother.
Komai, it is for the best. His Majesty said if the people of this settlement love this country, then he will be accepting them as subjects of the kingdom. My role has come to an end, and I can let my feelings soar now.
Honestly, don't make your sister cry, you jerk.
I don't know what else to say. Please look over Comine, and all of the others.
I can promise you this, I'll handle the paperwork. If there's anything that can truly protect them, it's the kingdom itself.
All right, in that case, please make sure the kingdom endures.
I will.
Baby smells so lovely.
He's not strong enough to hold his head up yet. Careful holding him.
How are you feeling?
Fairly stable after the operation, thank goodness. And my milk supply is good, so I'm able to nurse him until he's full.
I'm relieved to hear that.
When you said you were splitting her belly open, I was nervous at first.
Back where I'm from, cesarean sections have a very high rate of success.
You little... Don't make it sound so simple. How would you like to be cut open, even if it's 100% successful?
Did you see the infant covered in blood and vernix? What about all the blood spilled on the floor and how much blood she needed to have pumped back into her?
Carl...
It doesn't matter how much magic and medicine is used. Women still risk their lives giving birth.
There, please don't cry, little one. That's probably my cue to give him back.
I'm sorry. You're right. I treated the subject too lightly. My apologies to you too.
Don't be ridiculous. Without your help, I most likely would not be here holding my baby now. If anyone should be bowing their head in here, it ought to be me.
As a man, it doesn't affect me the same. I wish I could have been of some use.
In that case, I'd be honored if you were my son's godfather.
Huh? Who, me?
Yes. If your majesty were to choose his name, I'm sure this land would provide him with good fortune and health in return.
I'm honored, but you're sure it should be me?
Even a man should be able to handle that.
Well, alright. A name, huh? No, I've got it. What about Fuku? Back in my home world, it means happiness.
Fuku.
Sound good?
I don't know how to thank you. With such a wonderful name bestowed on him, no doubt he will become as tall and as handsome as an elk's antlers.
Grow up to be strong, little one.
Hi, Fuku. Boo.
Huh? What's wrong?
Other people's babies are cute, but when they're your own, they must be even more adorable.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Soma, how about we start trying?
Huh? You mean like, oh, yeah, well, actually, could we wait a little while longer?
Come on! You're still not ready?
Ahem. If you two don't mind, save that talk for later. Preferably when I am very far away.
As Koma departed with his group of volunteers, leaving Fredonia behind them, his sister Koman took over as chief of the settlement. Those traveling could not shake their longing for home, and swore to take back their lands by force if necessary, while those who saw them off kept their longing for home in their hearts, dreaming of restoring peace to their nations while remaining in a foreign land. Though their parting was a sad one, at the same time, it was their own decision.
I see you made it to class on time. Oh, yes, I'm wearing glasses. Not that I need them. They put me in the teacher mood.
Like a piece of armor?
Indeed. For you see, this will be your first of many lessons. So welcome to day one of the fiancé's bridal course. And your teacher will be none other than myself, the learned Excel Walter. To be candid, I've been hoping for an opportunity like this for quite a while. And when I heard His Majesty say that he could have children any time now, I decided this would be the perfect moment. After all, it won't be long before all of you will be mothers. As you are aware, this kingdom faced civil war. 2 generations ago, when the king died, a dispute arose over who would succeed to the throne. The royal family was nearly wiped out. Under His Majesty Souma's rule, I trust nothing of the sort will happen again. However, you mustn't be complacent. If there is any breach between king and queen, or between a queen and one of the other queens, someone will certainly try taking advantage of it. For the sake of the kingdom, it is paramount for all of you to establish a harmonious marital relationship. That's why a bridal training course is so crucial.
But why are you the one teaching us, Duchess Walter?
Well, I have lived for over 500 years now, and fallen in love with a number of gentlemen, none of whom I ever parted with, mind you, except through death. Not to mention I have also borne each of them children. Now it's my responsibility to teach you as queens, no, rather as individual women, how to remain in harmony with the man that you love. The art of being a wife, everything from understanding the male mind to ensuring a smooth married life via the performance of, shall we say, nighttime services. I've already had His Majesty Souma take an individual course with me. Now then, what does this mean in both war and marriage? Information is key if you want to succeed.
Know yourself and the enemy, and you'll survive 100 battles, as His Majesty is always fond of saying.
He's right. As long as you are aware of how the other party views you, you will always know how to conduct yourself. Still, though, sometimes it is good to be unpredictable and shake things up if you ever find yourself in a rut. Know yourself, brides, and the other party, and your union won't be endangered. Like I said, I met with the king, along with a royal mage, who secretly cast a confession spell on His Majesty. This notebook contains the information I got out of him during that session. All right, I will now read how His Majesty Souma sees each of his future queens one by one.
First, Roroa. I'll start with his estimation of you.
Me? Why do I go first?
Oh, no particular reason. I just thought I'd start with the latest one to meet His Majesty.
Yeah, that makes sense since I am the newest addition to this group. Plus, I suppose it's better than going last.
All right, so according to His Majesty, why don't we talk about Roroa and your feelings for her?
My feelings? I like how cheerful and friendly she can be. She can be underhanded at times, but that's just part of her charm. It's heartwarming how she looks up to Licia and the others. Also, she's a whiz when it comes to finances. I'm very grateful for her, and that she's my fiancé.
This is so embarrassing.
And furthermore, I asked His Majesty if he had anything to add, and he said the following. Regarding the death of her father, I feel responsible for it.
I know we were at war, but that hardly matters. His blood is on my hands. And while I know Roroa says she was estranged from Gaius, I wonder, does she really want to marry me?
That worries him sometimes.
What? Is he dense, darling, you big dummy? I've already considered all of that. I'm getting married to him because that's what I really wanted to do. So why is he thinking about the past?
There.
Big sister Sia.
Don't you worry. I'll give Souma a piece of my mind later. Roroa, there's a reason he brought it up, you know? That's because he loves you. You're important to him. You know that, don't you?
Well, on the one hand, I'm upset he's oblivious to the way I feel. On the other, now that I know just how highly my darling thinks of me, it makes me kind of happy.
As long as you're aware of that, you should do just fine. Next up, Juna.
Yes?
Pretty. Beautiful. Her appearance. But it's not only that. Her heart, too. She walks behind the rest, but only because she wants to see the larger picture. She really is the perfect woman. I don't want to lose her.
His Majesty really said that about me?
When I asked, how do you feel about Juna, he then replied with the following. I consider myself lucky whenever she lets me dote on her, especially since I'm a younger guy.
Wait a minute, I thought His Majesty and myself were the same age.
No, she's right. You're both 19.
It was only later Souma realized, in the world where he came from, that 1 year lasts 365 days. While in this one, it lasts 384, so when you factor in the difference, you would actually be at least a full year older than His Majesty Souma.
I had no idea there was such a gap between our ages. But wait, you're not saying that His Majesty dislikes older women, are you?
Not to worry. He continued by saying the following. In the world I come from, we have an old saying that goes, find a wife a year older than you are, and if necessary, wear wire sandals.
Oh, thank goodness.
Next up, Aisha.
Yes, ma'am?
His Majesty Souma's appraisal of you, Aisha, is...
Sorry, but why are you stopping there?
Actually, he called you pet-like.
He said I what?
I can see that.
Not you too, Juna! What am I, his lapdog?
Aisha is strong and noble, a gorgeous warrior. The fact is, she's the most valiant fighter in the kingdom, and it's reassuring to know I always have her by my side. At least it should be. The thing is, there's something irresistible about her. I find myself wanting to protect her, I suppose.
I'm an utter failure as a bodyguard.
Aisha, shake.
You're so adorable.
I feel like I want to protect you myself.
What? Not you too.
Lastly, we come to Princess Licia. I should start off by mentioning I asked the king what was on his mind when it comes to you.
That feels like a different question from the rest.
I believe his assessment of you, Princess Licia, can be summarized by the answer to that one inquiry. When His Majesty answered, he said just a single word. Nothing.
Nothing at all? He had something to say about all the others, didn't he?
And yet, when it came to me, he drew a blank. He did say more, which should provide context. I want to personally tell her about my feelings. Quote.
Not very fair. Sia's the only one he said that about.
Huh? Of course she gets special treatment. I'm so jealous.
Ow! Come on, ladies. I'm really smart.
Not you two, Juna. The truth is, I'm jealous of the rest of you.
Huh? How come?
I really wanted to hear how you liked such and such about me. Like how he didn't want to lose me to anyone, or how he wanted to protect me as well.
I guess that's just the way things go.
From now on, whenever we have a lesson, why don't we gather together around the table?
Nice job hurting us.
Of course.
All right. Moving on, it's time for specific instruction, and to discuss the different ways for you all to maintain marital bliss.
What do you mean by specific?
As I said at the beginning, we'd cover the psychological aspects and the performance of one's nighttime services, remember? And I intend to teach you exhaustively about these subjects.
Excuse me, Grandmother, but everything else aside, are you sure it's necessary for us to have to sit through a lecture going over techniques for these rather private matters?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with Juna on this one. It's gonna be way too embarrassing.
It's got me kind of curious, though.
Roroa?
Sia, you don't want to know more?
Well, sure, I mean...
So you are a little curious, huh? You can say it.
Goodness. You sure you ladies want to pass up a chance like this? Because if you sit through my lecture all the way to the end, then as proof of completion, I will give you each one of these.
Some kind of classified documents?
Does that say burn after reading?
Whatever's inside sounds pretty dangerous.
Must be state secrets.
That's right. The naked truth, as it were. Contained here in these black books are unspeakable things His Majesty either wants you to do to him or he wants to do to you, as well as the situations in which to perform them. In other words, top national security secrets. While usually kept lawfully in his heart, His Majesty Souma's desires for each of you are laid bare within these pages, in incredible detail, I might add. Let's begin. Our first lecture, servicing.
I don't think I can do this.
Come on in.
Pardon.
I'm here to make my report concerning the slave traders. So, the traders, you have some news? I do. Similarly to Freedonia, I would like to start a system where they instead work for the Empire.
That's Soma for you, no surprise. Avoid a war by turning all the slave traders into public servants. Meanwhile, the slaves receive a high-quality education.
That couldn't have been easy to think up. It wasn't Soma. I heard a slave trader in town came up with the idea.
My! Seems like they are blessed with an abundance of talent.
Indeed, they are. However, some slave traders may not be sanctioned, and then commit violent acts, like kidnapping. It has happened in Freedonia.
We will have to keep a careful watch for that.
Right. I would like to bear that in mind when distributing certifications.
You have to wonder, what kind of national improvement is Soma going to try and implement next? If I know him, he's imagining an even more wonderful kingdom.
You certainly are taken with His Majesty's sister.
Of course I am. And yet, what Freedonia attempts is ultimately just for reference. We have to do our own building, using the rock-solid foundation of our country.
A suggestion, if I may. As their progress continues, I should stay in touch with Hakuya.
Yes, I think that's best. So, how are things?
With Hakuya, I mean. There's nothing going on between us.
Pardon me, Your Majesty.
That's okay. Please continue.
The citizens' lives have become more stable, which in turn has allowed us to build more residences.
That's terrific.
Alas, there is a problem. The trees surrounding the capital have all been cut down for the purpose of lumber and providing heat for the winter. Some areas are nothing but sparse, barren hills now.
Seems we need lumber stoppages. Who would have guessed?
Lumber stoppages?
Back where I'm from, lumber was once an important military resource. To guard it, excess logging was prohibited on certain mountains. It was so strict they said that felling a single tree could cost you your head.
That seems a bit excessive.
Well, we won't go that far. Also, redirect the thin timber from the god-protected forest to where it's needed.
As you wish, sire.
The refugees. How are they in coal mine?
Their relocation is going quite smoothly, and there are no complaints with the housing. The issue is with jobs. While there are numerous hunters among their people, the truth is not many of them possess what you would call marketable skills.
We can't have them making nothing but weapons. I see your point. They may hunt prey, but they can also make woolen goods. Let's put them to work in the textile mill. We have to invest in the public sector more, and not just find ways of employing them.
Luckily, there are some areas in Venetinova that as of yet have not been zoned. We can develop the facilities while providing jobs for the refugees.
Go right ahead. As long as we continue on this course, Venetinova will become a center of trade. But unless we raise the level of education there, they won't be able to make ends meet. At least not on industry alone.
I've thought as much, and have already discussed it with Ginger.
Leave it to you, Hagia. Zero mas.
It's done!
What's done, Poncho?
The thing Your Majesty specially requested I invent.
Really? Are you talking about it?
Yes!
May I try?
I'd be honored if you had a taste, sir, yes.
Ow.
Huh. Is it decent?
You're a genius, Poncho! There's no doubt this is a sauce for flour-based dishes!
Yes!
If I may ask, what makes this sauce particularly important?
Well, with this as a base, we can make yakisoba, okonomiyaki, monjayaki, takoyaki. It'll even work as a sauce poured over fried foods. How about a taste, Hagia?
It has a fruity, veggie flavor with spices that entice the nose, and yet it's unlike ordinary Worcester sauce in that it possesses a strong sweet and sour flavor with no shortage of taste. Truly, it is unlike any sauce I've had before.
I admit, even I'm surprised you reproduced it, considering how you never even tried it.
Thank you for your generous heaps of praise, yes.
Still, just what did you use? Certain tastes are familiar to me.
I'm impressed by your palate, Your Majesty. Allow me to explain. It's a mixture of various ingredients. First, I combined Worcester and tomato sauce, then added a little bit of soy sauce and mirin from Kikoro Distillery, yes.
Question. Are we able to mass produce this new sauce?
I spoke with Kikoro Distillery, and they're willing to take it on, yes.
Your Majesty, I just had a thought. What if we took food that uses this flour-based dish sauce and made it a specialty dish that you can only get in Venetinova?
Which in turn would create new jobs. But we cannot let Venetinova have a monopoly over this sauce. However, since they're a Gulf city, they can make squid yakisoba. This is the dawn of a Venetinova delicacy. People will come from all over.
Squid yakisoba? I have to be the first in line to try some. My mouth's watering just from imagining it, yes!
This sure has been a turbulent year.
Yes, you said it.
I had the throne relinquished to me on April 32nd, and before you know it, another year has passed.
And tomorrow is December 32nd. The last 8 months felt like they went by in the blink of an eye.
Lucia, is something wrong?
Wrong? What could be wrong? Nothing, that's what.
Oh. Open. Say, I've always wanted more moments just like this. You know, beneath a kotatsu, keeping warm while doing nothing. Sounds terrific, huh?
Here, say, It's nice taking a break for once.
True. Hopefully it stays like this for a long while.
Yeah, you said it.
And as soon as they say it's nice doing nothing... Yes?
I have a message from Albert. Tomorrow, the evening of December 32nd, he would like to meet with your majesty.
Finally.
Wait, my father? Soma, I'm coming too.
His majesty is to attend alone. Albert was specific.
Soma. Sorry for making you wait until the end of the year to see us.
It's been too long since last we met, Majesty.
Far too long.
Sit, please. Let us talk.
My congratulations on winning the war with Amadonia and annexing the territory. Quite an impressive feat for having only been on the throne for 6 months.
That's very kind. I asked to see you numerous times since you abdicated. Now, finally, you've agreed to meet.
As we've said, we're terribly sorry for making you wait so long.
Whenever I asked for an audience, I was given excuses, and told that I would know the truth one day. So then, is today that day?
If that is what you most desire, yes.
I have some burning questions that'll help me know what you were thinking. There are 3 things I want to ask. Number 1. When you first summoned me to this world, right then is when you stepped down from the throne. And you even offered to make Alicia my fiancé, which was odd. It was the first time we had ever even met, not to mention how young I am. Why would you decide to entrust everything to me? Number 2, Jorg's devotion. Not only was the man willing to be dragged through the mud, he formed a suicide pact with my enemies to ensure their defeat. It's all too strange. The plan required some careful preparation, and cost him his life. It worked out, but only because of his sense of loyalty. I find it hard to believe that it was for me, since he and I were strangers. Where was that loyalty really directed? If not for me, it must have been for you. And lastly, why have you refused to meet with me until now? Why did I have to wait all this time?
That's all you wish to know?
Let's start with those 3.
If you insist, I would like to begin my answer by observing that all of the questions you asked have something in common, a single factor.
And just what is that?
I hope you don't mind me answering your inquiries out of order. But in regards to your 3rd question, we debated whether or not we should tell you this, or if it was better to take the secret to our graves. The fact is, the misdeeds I have committed are many and severe. I am not strong enough to keep them locked away. Let me ask, has there been a point where you wished you could redo part of your life?
I have felt that many times before. After I took over, I wondered, how could I have done things better? Could I have somehow managed to save some more lives? But why would you ask me that?
What I'm about to tell you took place long ago. Please bear that in mind while you listen to it. Once upon a time, a king ruled over a nation, but unfortunately, he was a very mediocre leader. Then, one day, a request came from a great country to the west to perform a hero summoning. The king ordered the ritual as he was instructed, and thus, a young man was summoned to their world from another. But before the king could turn over the young man to the great western nation, the hero said the following: "We should increase the nation's wealth and military might."
I think I'm familiar with this story. You're talking about me, aren't you?
I haven't finished telling it yet.
Oh, sorry.
Within this young man, the king sensed great talent he himself did not possess, and therefore appointed the hero to be the prime minister. The young man lived up to the expectations and enacted a number of reforms. Sure enough, these efforts paid off, and the kingdom began to recover from their food shortages and economic woes. However, the reforms he implemented agitated the rich and powerful, and inevitably incurred the ire of the aristocracy. The ruling class did everything they could to convince the king the young man was harmful to the kingdom's future, and to have him banished. Fortunately, the boy had one powerful ally, the general over the kingdom's army. He was able to perceive the young man's talent right away, and for that reason supported him. Nevertheless, the aristocracy feared the summoned hero's gain in momentum. They continued making even more false accusations, which resulted in the king becoming increasingly nervous. For even though the young man's talents were appealing, they came at the expense of many influential enemies. At least that's what the king believed, and so he chose to dismiss him. Heartbroken, the exiled hero took shelter in the city where the army's general's castle was situated. It wasn't ideal, but would keep the kingdom from being divided. Even though he was ostracized, the situation would at least spare his life, or so the king had convinced himself. Unfortunately, that was not the end of the matter, for later that same year, a neighboring country which bore a grudge toward the kingdom invaded their territory. They responded accordingly, and the army general sent his forces to confront the enemy troops. Then it happened. As if they had anticipated the strategy, the aristocrats staged a revolt, and the besieged country was forced to respond to that assault. Despite the solid castle walls and the general's experience, the enemy had the overwhelming advantage of sheer numbers. After an intense battle, the hero was slain, and the castle ultimately fell. The city surrounding the castle was set ablaze, and the young man was reduced to ash. The castle is said to have burned for 3 days and 3 nights. As for the mediocre king, he lamented his decisions after seeing how they had cost the young man his life. After losing its stalwart general, the army was driven back. The neighboring countries soon united forces with the aristocrats, continuing their advance toward the royal capital, even though the king rushed to assemble his troops. Because of his failure to prevent the young man and army general from being killed, he found he no longer had any allies. At that point, his only option was to recruit a volunteer militia, which did not work out so well either. The young man had made many reforms throughout his life, but while they had earned him the animosity of the nobles, they had also saved the people. After being indebted to the young man, only later to be the cause of his death, the people turned their backs on the king. Inevitably, the king found himself isolated and helpless, surrounded by a vast army out for blood and to destroy his kingdom. He had brought it all upon himself.
You make it sound like you saw all of this.
Yes, that's because I did. In truth, well, more like someone showed me.
What do you mean? How were you shown?
I owe that gift to my wife's abilities. Forgive me, I thought surely you were aware my wife is able to use the same sort of dark magic that you also possess.
It's been mentioned.
Her ability is a fact of which very few people are aware, so I ask you tell no one. You see, my wife's dark magic allows her to transfer memories to people who exist in the past.
So you're able to tell people what hasn't even happened yet? Wait, what do you mean? Have you come to us from the future?
It's a little bit different from that, Your Majesty.
Continue listening. There's still a crucial part left in the story that I have yet to disclose. A wiser king would have let that young man continue with his reforms, and not banished him. Instead, I was swayed by false accusations. If I had allowed him to remain Prime Minister, we would not be experiencing this tragedy. What was I thinking? I should have given him the throne instead of making him the Prime Minister. If only I had. I suspect the boy would have ruled the kingdom far better than I ever could. If he were king, our daughter...
You've had many failures in respects here, and as a result of those, our fate has been sealed. But using my magic, there's still a chance. I'll share your failure to your past so you can choose differently next time.
What are you talking about, dear?
At this point, you must be aware of how I'm able to use dark magic. And because of these abilities I have, I can transfer memories from your experiences to your former self.
You're serious?
When your past self receives your later memories, they'll vicariously relive the experiences, feeling as if though time itself had been rewound.
Oh.
Your Majesty,
There is something I have done that I must apologize to you for.
And what is that?
The true reason I chose to marry you is because of my memories passed from the future.
But why, dear?
Please forgive me, my dearest. No matter how strong or valiant a husband I chose, or how truly brilliant they were, the kingdom perished every time. Whatever the reason, invasion by foreign enemies, war with the demons, insurrection by the nobility, or even uprisings by our own people, the outcome never changed. I saw the capital in flames.
Then, by marrying me, you were trying to prevent the kingdom from falling? And yet here it is again, nearly ready to crumble while I'm its king.
Yes. However, this is also the first time our country has persisted for so long. It was also the first permutation in which I conceived a child. While we are unable to alter our present situation, it's possible for us to lead our past selves to a future different from this one without ruin.
Yes, you're right. Let's convey this failure to our former selves. After we have told them, that version will relinquish the throne to the young man.
What point in time would be best?
You can choose that too?
Yes.
Then, after we summon the hero, I want to hear him speak about his policies to strengthen the kingdom.
It shall be done.
To my past self, who is only capable of making mediocre choices, at least make this one correct decision for once in your life.
Is he talking about a time slip? No, would it be a time leap? Wait, since it's just their memories and not the person, is that different? Hold on a second. If that's true, wouldn't it create a time paradox? This isn't the cut-and-dry swords and sorcery world I thought it was.
You must believe me. I'm sorry about this.
I don't see any reason for you to apologize.
This has been very difficult for the version of me who sent the memories as well as the me who received them. I feel as though I have lived the experience of appointing you Prime Minister, playing the damned fool, then turning back time to erase all my mistakes. My current self may have done nothing wrong, and still, I cannot shake this feeling of guilt. On behalf of my previous self, I am truly sorry.
Now I understand clearly. You can apologize if you want to, but I don't remember any of that happening.
Please allow me the dignity of admitting my failures, then.
In that case, all right.
I believe that should sufficiently answer your first and third questions.
Yes, and I'm grateful. Just one more. Yorick Carmine and his devotion. Hold on. Did you speak to him about all of this?
To be honest, I am a weak man and wasn't strong enough to bear the burden of carrying the truth on my shoulders alone. I could scarcely believe I would be able to bring about such a radically different future all by myself. That is why I found a man I could trust. It is why I told York Carmine about everything that I had witnessed. Ordinarily, if a king exhibited similar behavior, he would be considered mad. But instead, after listening, the Duke nodded his powerful head and stated that if I said it were true, then it must be so.
That means the strategy of rooting out all the corrupt aristocrats was his idea.
Even though Castor was growing more and more suspicious, unfortunately, we could not reveal our complete strategy to him, and that created a lot of extra trouble for you, I'm afraid.
We tried playing York. In the end, we were played. Here I was, thinking we were blazing our own trail, when we were following a track that was laid before us. What can I say? This is certainly humbling.
Indeed, isn't that the truth? But the fact remains you led us into a different future that never existed before. You annexed Amadonia and rebuilt the entire nation, transforming it into the Kingdom of Fredonia. I don't see how my decision to yield the throne to you was misguided in any way.
And I'm pleased to hear you say that. But at what point did the future begin changing?
From the very beginning, yes.
This time around, Your Majesty had Licia by his side from the start.
Wait, Licia? Did she exist in that other future too?
You ran into her at Randall Castle. She was serving as the executive secretary for York's forces, you see. Not only did Licia recognize your talents almost immediately, the way she did in this timeline, but she apparently fell in love with you. And then after your dismissal, she made a personal plea to reverse my decision. However...
My husband was yet too afraid of the aristocrats and therefore didn't heed his own daughter's advice. Licia left the capital looking quite upset, and returned to Randall Castle, which was later reduced to ashes by the nobles.
But wait, what about the friends I appointed? Hakuya and the others?
They weren't around, because you weren't allowed to make your gemstone broadcast. I had adopted the view of those who respected the custom and then refused to let you use it for any other intended purpose.
Now that I think about it, most of the personnel we recruited came along after we sent out gemstone broadcasts, which leads me to believe that was a tremendous turning point. And the only way I was allowed to do it in the end was because I was king, and my engagement to Licia, which gave me legitimacy. Without either working in my favor, we may have never been able to silence those who objected to how we used the gemstones, when you think about it like that. You know, Licia is starting to look like the goddess of victory.
It seems so. I hope you'll take good care of her.
Right.
And with that, I have officially passed on everything of value I know to you. And it would appear that my role is finally at an end now. We've decided to leave the castle, and to go away and live in secrecy.
Why is that?
If the former royalty continues lingering around, it will give people certain ideas. Once we witnessed a different future materialize, we both agreed we would go into hiding. We know for certain we can leave the kingdom in your capable hands. We'll be counting on you, my son.
Thank you for everything, Father, Mother. I will not let you two down.